Oh, hi, you guys, and welcome to the stream. I don't know why the camera's so far off, but I'm sure we can fix that. Is Hild even playing? Am I zoomed in? What's going on? I don't know. But hey, how are we all? How are we all doing? Hope you guys are doing well. We've got two lovely people with us today to do some lovely DM skilled things. We're going to be looking through into the world of TallSquall and how he does all the amazing prep and things that he does. That's what we're going to be doing. I've knocked up a briefing for this. I'm really sorry we had to cancel our Cypher game this morning. We had to cancel because, unfortunately, one of the cast fell ill. Quite a pivotal member. So we wish very best wishes to her and hope that she feels better soon. But Chelsea will still be DMing the 10 a.m. game. Us guys are here right now. We're gonna get to this and just do some DMs stuff. TallSquall's going to grace us with his beautiful DMs Guild pings. So that's what we are planning to do. Now, if you guys are joining for the first time, these are the links you need. We've got Discord there where we do artwork. We talk about D&D, including rules, character creation. We support each other, all that good stuff. You've also got Twitter. If you guys would like to get into a Twitter, if you guys would like to get into a Twitter game, if you guys would like to get into a one shot or a bit of D&D with us, send me a DM on Twitter and I'll put you in the fabled diary and get you a game. And YouTube, where we are keeping up with everything. Good morning, Lightfinger. You get to see a little bit of an insight behind the screen today. A little bit of an insight behind the screen. So with no further ado, I'll go and grab the guys. Oh, hi guys, you're live.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. As we talk about DMs things. Now, this I feel is very much your field of expertise, TallSquall. Why don't you introduce yourself? I'm sure everyone already knows, but
Hi, I'm TallSquall. I run a D&D campaign over on my channel on Saturdays at 2 o'clock called The Vice. We've been running for, we just had our 67th episode, 67th episode, so for about a year and a half. And it's been a blast. I also have been a player, or am a player, on a couple of different kind of role-play campaigns over on the D&D channel on Learn by Play, which is another show that sort of teaches you how to play D&D. And most recently had the great honor to work with Dan from Kobold Press on the new Midgard campaign that is running over there. So it has been a whirlwind and a blast, but my two favorite people, the most lovely people in all of England, it's me and all of my world, I'll even say, are my buddies Scraticus and White Rabbit. I guess I'll go by your alias.
We can't call it. We just sort of.
yeah, we don't know how to accept this praise. We just melt. I'm dying. And you know, it's funny. We were actually just talking about you yesterday with. I'll leave them unnamed, but we were saying, like, isn't TallSquall just the best? Like, and we were all sitting there going, and he was like, I've got to be really careful because if I say that in the D&D community, people might like try and hound me for saying that someone's better. We're all as good as each other.
We were like,
yeah, but he is the best. So yeah, I suppose let's talk about like one thing that I would really like to learn from. Oh, Alice, I know you're my wife, and I'm sure all our viewers know you, but why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Okay. I am White Rabbit Pick on Twitter and everywhere else. I'm a well-to-do hobbit in Twitch, which I think I need to change now because no one is putting two and two together, and I think I'm just confusing people. I am a DM on Scrat's channel for A Necromancer's Wish every Monday, which is coming to an end in two intense sessions. So I'm looking forward to that. I also DM one-shots, whether they are on the Academy or just during the week on the channel. I sort of, my one-shots tend to go either way. They're either full-blown shenanigans or they are horror, which I didn't necessarily intend them to be at the beginning, but people seem to like it. And yeah, I'm working, I think it was announced yesterday, I'm currently working on the podcast for this channel, which is going to be using the Cypher system. But yeah, so
Sexy.
Yeah, so excited. But yeah, that's me, and hopefully I can DM a lot more in future. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So talking about like DMing and stuff. Now I find that I'm very, very good at ad lib, on the fly, making stuff up and making it fit. Like, I generally, when I'm playing a 3 hour one shot, I'll have like 5 bullet points of things that I want to happen. And how they happen is just entirely dependent. But
Mhm.
I know that both you TallSquall and you Alice, you both do so much more prep and writing. Like, how do your minds work when you go through this stuff? Because I'm literally like, I literally have like I would hold up my notes, but no one can read them. I literally have like, right, 5 o'clock we start, 5:15 this happens, 5:45 this happens, and that's how I manage my time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys? What's your thought process when you're designing like a one shot or a campaign show?
Well, I can tell you, for me, I've not run really a one shot yet, and because it scares the hell out of me. It truly terrifies me to run a one shot, because I mean, one of the things I feel I'm not great at, and one of my strong points is not doing someone throws you a curveball. Um, I've not, it's a skill like anything else. I'm sure it's something that I can hone, and I probably need to just bite the bullet and start doing some one shots. Um, but it always seems like by the time I think of a one shot, I've written an entire campaign. Um,
Yeah.
and so that and I love telling stories. For anyone who's watched my channel, I mean, I always say, as my sign off, gather your friends together and tell a story, because I love telling a story. And so once I get into, oh, well, this would be cool, but I need to let them know what this world's all about first. And then once I let them know what this world's all about, then what else is going on? And suddenly, I've got a 12-page document of notes on stuff like that. So, so anyway, back to prep. So how do I prep? So for one shots, I need to learn how to one shot. I need to learn how to do the bullet points, and especially with streaming, do the look at the clock, and that's when stuff happens. Because my problem is that, I mean, yesterday my session that was supposed to be 3 hours went 5 hours, and yeah.
I love that though. See, to me, I love that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like, also, thank you very much, Private Keyboard, for the sub, and Ishman for the host. I suppose this can be quite an interactive one. I'm not used to interacting with the chat so much during a D&D stream, but if you guys have any questions or anything, keep firing them through. But yeah, I tend to find that I will write a one shot, and things will happen, and I'll have ideas as we go that I'll just throw in.
Mm-hmm.
And like 9 times out of 10, it almost becomes the start of a campaign. Like, it's like the one shot just becomes a great plot hook for a campaign. Like,
See, you taught me the one shot way, where you do it all by times. Thing is, you have one page and you have the times, and you're like, this happens. I still can't let go of the mass of notes. So I mean, I never ever done a one shot before until I did it on stream. Otherwise, I'd only ever done campaigns, and it is terrifying to go from a one shot from just campaigns. I mean, after your first one, you're like, yeah, that wasn't so bad. I can do this. The best tip I can say for doing a one shot: leave it on a cliffhanger. Just if it's unresolved, like just leave it on a really epic cliffhanger, and people either want more, and then it enables you to, if you want to branch it out into a campaign, you can. So TallSquall, you say that you write everything on the computer. Like, because of my dyslexia, I can't necessarily read things off of a plain white like Microsoft Word document. So I have multiple like stacks of just notebooks that I keep with me at all times, whether it's for ideas or things like that. But
yeah.
one shots are difficult. The other thing is because I really like to know the characters that are going to be in it first as well, so that I can adapt it to the characters. I'm getting better at being a bit more spontaneous. The last horror one shot I did, you were in that one, I think, Scrap.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, Alice gave me the task of assassinating someone. It's a great clip. I'll find the clip and I'll put it in chat because
but
we were 2 hours 20 minutes in and none of them had realised that I was actually an assassin.
Yeah. But I think the last hour and a half of that, because you guys went off track, was full blown improvised. None of that was written down.
See, now I found I had the opposite problem when I was running the Dead Mountain campaign. I found that I was too improv-y. So like the campaign would often just form itself around the ideas that I was having during the stream, and I didn't ever follow the story that I'd written down.
Well, but that's that's all valid stuff. I mean, just to respond a little bit to some of the stuff that I'm seeing in chat. Yeah, Ishman, pacing, absolutely. And Karoman, yeah, no, it's interesting. You talk about how you used to write everything down but never survived contact with the players. So again, that's a great it's a great way to have the NPCs and stuff. And even in my campaigns, I mean, I've got a drop in NPC list. I mean, I think a lot of DMs have picked up that incredible tip from a lot of different places. But so obviously me and Alice are the control freaks of the group.
Yes. And I am proud of that. I do.
I'm just surfing that wave. Like, where are we going now, guys?
And that's great because I mean, as I say, your fun is not wrong. I mean, you're running a campaign, and that's even part of the piece of finding the DM that is right for you. I mean, some people I'm sure would absolutely go nuts in my Vice campaign. That is so crazy lore heavy and so crazy. This giant background world machine that is occurring that the players are just a small cog in and might or might not be able to influence what's happening in the machine around them.
Yeah, I love that.
For some people, that's a nightmare. The idea of that. So, and there's something we can all learn from each other. That's the biggest thing that, I love about the D&D community is, my players helped me out with this yesterday. Who need to learn how, I had gone through, and again, I'm an engineer, so I methodically and mechanically go through, here's all the different crazy things that I can think of they might do, and if they go that way, this way, the other way, at least have a little bit of an idea of what that means, how things are going to end up when they throw that pebble in a different direction than I'm expecting. And they still threw me one that I wasn't quite expecting, but was close, was pebble adjacent to some of my planning.
Yeah. And when they find an NPC that they love and then just go to that and you're like, no, what about this guy? Go check out this person, and they attach themselves. So I think we did that in the Dead Mountain campaign. There was a really creepy tiefling called Steve, because Adam had to make it up on like a whim.
Oh yeah, Steve. I just made up a voice for this random character, and I was just went, I don't know why, but I had Overwatch's Junkrat. I had him in my head, and I just tried to do an impression of him, and it was awful. But the guy just fell in love with it, and I was like, oh god damn it! Now I need to do this all the time.
Now we want the recording for a ringtone just to have Steve's voice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I must admit, I sometimes tune in when you're doing these DM prep sessions that you do TallSquall, and sometimes I say hello, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just sit there and I just try and absorb how you do it, how you do all that lore. Like
I forget to say hello sometimes because I'm so absorbed in it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to say hi.
But thank you. I mean, that's I love that. It's funny, and it is true, and I have learned this. I think it was Matt Coble said, the lore is what the DM does for themselves, because it's not necessarily things that are even going to come into play, not come into play, and it's kind of like. It's your own little passion to do it. But when it all comes together, it is certainly kind of fun. I mean, as far as where to start, so where to start in world building, and everyone's got different ways that they say it. Some people, just start with your little, microcosm and then let it grow. My brain doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So I start from macro, usually, macro look, and skip the middle piece because you can't fill all of the world in, and then jump to the telescopic focus on the party. But I think my main conceit through most all of it is, what would be happening in this world if the party wasn't there? To start from there, of the, okay, you've said that there is this big evil organization, or this big just this big organization, whatever you want to, we'll call it is. I mean, right now my party is dealing with a sort of recurring group of folks who are out there. They first encountered all the way back, like at level 3, was their first real big combat encounter with bandits from the Green Dragonflight Syndicate. And so they, it was them dealing with their sort of first forays into dealing with poisons and stuff like that, because they, it was a great gang that had a theme, which is always nice, gets people attached to it. Then later on at like level 5, they dealt with the Black Dragonflight Syndicate. And that was one of their big step ups. It was their big first dungeon crawl, was through the lair of the Black Dragonflight Syndicate. They now, just yesterday, encountered, now these guys, as I explained to the party when they did their successful history check, the Green Dragonflight, the ones that you dealt, Green Dragonflight, the Black Dragonflight that you dealt with over on the west side of the continent, are like street gangs. You have now encountered this new group, the Masked Dragon, which is like the mafia, or like, dealing with the Yakuza, who are running out of the capital, the human capital city. And so to keep having this recurring theme. So again, they were in this big sort of heist idea. And it was okay, if the party never showed up, what would have happened in this town? And how would this have all resolved out? And then the party shows up. So the starting point is, when you create these organizations, you can build upon them and turn them into the lore can build itself by just sort of going, so what's their deal? When I first started this, I did the Green Dragonflight Syndicate and was like, oh, this is kind of a cool thing. We'll start with, there's certain types of damage that are harder to deal with. Poison's kind of one of the low level, easier damages. It's like eventually, dealing with, like, I was going to have the Blue Dragonflight Syndicate, which, are out there in the, in the northern wastes. Well, we didn't go to the northern wastes, so we never got to, to do that, or, and, you do sort of get rote. It's like, once they saw the Black Dragonflight Syndicate, it was like, okay, those guys are acid, type idea.
Yeah. And like, do you ever get like intimidated by that idea that you could like prep all of this stuff and then never see it?
Yes,
So,
because you guys missed a bit in the campaign, and my God, it's annoying.
But
So
I
annoying.
will say this: I had, never throw anything away. In the Black Dragonflight Syndicate whole encounter, there were these roving bands of kobolds who Black Dragonflight was using, and they made great stealth checks. They did great scouting and prep work to never have to bump into any of them. Yoinked, picked them all up, leveled them all up, and used a lot of those abilities that they had and put them into the Masked Dragon that they just fought yesterday. So these things that I built for them at level 4, buffed them up, kept a lot of those things that I had created, reskinned them from being kobolds into being these sort of, sort of bounty hunter-ish, because it was all about capturing the party, not killing the party. Because, hey, if you're the mafia, ransom is better than corpses. And kobolds were all about traps in there. That was all about trapping and stuff. So I picked up a lot of those things, a lot of the specialty items they did. For those of you who watch Turd and Cloaks, my wizards there are equipped with sodium daggers to just you.
I love that.
Yeah, you stick a sodium dagger in someone and it does 1d4 damage of piercing damage and 3d10 of thunder damage as it explodes inside the wound.
I love it.
You and your sodium weapons, they are that. I don't know when you had that brainwave, but it was a beautiful thing.
We were listening to that in the car at the time.
I don't know if you guys are all up to speed on turn cloaks, but there's a bit in the dungeon after you've taken a place with the guy and you're getting him to talk or something, and you give him that when you give him that long drink and then you do something with sodium. I won't give spoilers. Go and check out turn cloaks, guys. It's amazing. I just remember sitting there thinking, oh,
Yes.
Driving at the point because we were both like.
I can tell you, I was stuck in, when I thought of that, I was stuck in traffic and about a mile from the exit after drinking a very large iced tea and was in absolute torturous pain because I couldn't get to the exit. And I'm like, I need to use this for something. And I'm like, and I did.
But that's what happens though, like
Memorable
coming up
moments.
with ideas. It's literally, this is why I always keep a notebook on me, or even a sketchbook. If I can't put something into words, I draw it. So every time I come up with an idea, I've got a notebook by my bed, I've got one in my bag, so that whenever I'm out, I'm like, haha, and I quickly write it down.
So
I use notes in my phone.
Yeah.
I literally have a note section for the Vice in my phone that I don't even know. I mean, it takes me like 3 minutes to scroll to the bottom of it when I need to put a new note in.
Yeah.
I'm old school.
And I do put them all together like that because it's interesting. Once in a while, if I'm stuck, someplace or waiting in line, I will go through them and just be like, "Oh, right, I thought of that thing and I never used it." Oh, yeah.
That's what. Yeah, I've got a similar thing in my phone.
I'm always walking around with notepads, always. Like, and I'm like, seriously, I don't know if you have the same TallSquall. You have like the engineer's boiler suit over there, but here we have the engineer's boiler suit with the pockets. I've always got a pencil there and a notepad in my back pocket, and whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like literally, I do my planning like totally differently. Like where you guys like have built all of this lore without thinking of the players, I'm almost the complete other way around. I'm sitting there and I think about the players, and like the campaign which we are premiering on Tuesday, Wizards and Wardrobes premieres at 1 p.m. EST on Tuesday. Quick plug. I did it for a series of one shots, and I just really liked how 2 or 3 one shots ended with the same sort of plot hook, and I was like, well, I can make a campaign out of that, so I did. And I went from the complete other end, where I have these people who have ended up in this place, and I sort of worked backwards, and I was like, right, so why did they end up here? Like, because they don't know, I don't know, I need to figure out why they ended up here. And I just literally wrote about 150 words, roughly describing how they ended up here in about a century's worth of history. And then another couple of 100 words about the different factions in this place where they were. And like, then again,
but that's still so valid though.
Yeah,
I mean, that is such a valid way to do it.
Yeah, but like, and literally all I've done is like, I've got 16 episodes I've planned, and all I've written down is an episode title each time. Like, and I'll plan the episode in the week beforehand, but that thing in the title needs to happen. Like that's my plan.
The one time you did this to me, I think was last week when you were like, Alice, you need to do a horror one shot. And then I was like, oh, okay. Like, and I got back to work and he's like, no, I need a title now. I was like, what? And I was like, I haven't even thought of it. You've just told me. You're like,
yeah,
no,
I'm the worst for that.
Title now. And I was like,
I'm the worst for that. I'm like, Alice, I'm doing the schedule for next week. Can you give me a title for your game? And she's like, what?
How dare you?
And then I had to give a title, and the whole thing was worked around. I called it the pier because I just got back from the beach and I'd seen a pier, but it had to be horror. So I was like, right, okay, I'll just go with it, and hopefully that's the most spontaneous I've had to be with that before, and it was.
Yeah. Hey, it's Dragons or Cats. It's lurking. Yeah, we're no spoilers today, so you guys can chime in. My party had a fun time yesterday.
Yeah, I only got to tune in for about half an hour between streams, but yeah, it was awesome. So where the hell did Rainbow Road come from, Capricorn Cross? That one shot, literally one of another players said to me, "Hey, this might be a cool idea. Why don't you do like this thing where rainbows are sucking magic out of the thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do a one shot."
This is what I do struggle with. I have so many ideas, and the other thing that I've had to really learn is not to put it all in one. Like when you get a really good idea. So the campaign that's coming to an end at the moment, I wrote as a book about 5 years ago. I finished it. It's a full book. It's been written, everything. Obviously it's now completely different in so many things because I've thrown characters into it that don't, you know, they're allowed to do whatever they want. But I love that. So I think that's why my campaigns take on so much prep time and structure, because I build so much up with it and everything as well. One thing I was going to ask, like both of you, is what is your inspiration sort of thing? Where do you get your ideas from? Or is it like one of those things that just comes to you, or are you inspired by other things?
I mean, certainly Critical Role. And I would say that inspiration is more the inspiration of what to have prepared, because I mean, you know, it's funny, you know, Travis always calls Matt, you know, has this beautiful mind. And, you know, Matt's the first to admit, he goes, no, it's just, I have everything written down and kind of, you know, it reminds me back of college. If I, you know, taking notes in class wasn't about me actually going back and looking at my notes, but once I write something down, it locks in, you know, into my brain. And so part of mine is the writing so that I can be like, okay, let me, you know, I've got all these very amorphous ideas. And it's so, you know, for me, it is, I think that I know exactly what's going to happen because, I've thought about it all. But then when it actually comes to a party trying to interact with stuff, I'm like, whatever. But if I actually take that and write it down, and usually then it's like, it becomes solid, you know, and for me, things have to become solid for me to be able to describe them out. But that's more for my DMing style, just because to be able to try to really visually immerse myself. I'm a very, I guess, visual thinker. I mean, you know, even when I'm a player describing my characters, I try to really paint those pictures because that's what I'm seeing. But as far as inspiration goes, all over the place. I'd say probably the biggest inspiration, and it's funny, I didn't even realize even more so, has been a lot of the Kobold Press things that I have been in. They hadn't released the new Midgard world book until almost a year after I'd done my campaign. But then when I actually got it and then actually had to read it because we're doing the campaign, and I realized how many little pieces, like from the Tome of Beasts. I got to do my plug for Tome of Beasts, my favorite monster thing everywhere. There's so much little stuff in the Tome of Beasts that they talk about in the monsters that I kind of used as, you know, took and built it in my own way. And then when I went and read the true world book, was like, okay, that's, you know, it said that these bone crabs lived in this area and were like this and did these things. And then I expanded on what that meant for, okay, so let's look at their ecosystem beyond that. But so I guess, first thing, other campaign settings, you know, D&D is all about borrowing your favorite fantasy novels, absolutely your favorite horror novels, your favorite TV shows, most anything. I mean, in the story, in the world of verbal storytelling, where you aren't giving large visuals, tropes are your best friend. Do things that people have heard of, have seen before, that when you say something, and you don't want to say, hey, just like, you know, it's just like the Red Keep on Game of Thrones. Okay, don't do that. But if you start describing a city on the sea with a large citadel perched upon the cliff top, looking down over the city, surrounded by walls, the morning light hits it and it lights up in this sort of red golden light. Whether people know it or not, I'm even wearing my Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah.
Modified.
Yeah.
But people, whether or like it or not, they're going to start seeing the Red Keep, or they might be seeing like Minas Tirith, but on the coast, or some other fantasy castle, a painting they might have seen. Those tropes are your friends to make people, without you spending Tolkien levels of exposition explaining something, of them being there with you.
It's like
think-
like you're evoking the imagination that people have seen things and then they gradually put it all together. So
I had an interesting one on this a little while back. It was actually with Capricorn Cross, Mark in chat. We were doing a one shot, and I 100% took my inspiration from Tolkien, The Mines of Moria, and Tia would hate me right now as I butcher this name. Menzoberranzan.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, all of the
yeah,
close enough.
I just read like Homeland, so it was a combination of the two, and Cap was like, "Scrat, is this Dragon Age?" And I was like, "No, I guess it might be, but no." like that's not where I was coming from at all.
Inspired by someone, so lots of things are gonna interlink. I think.
And I see Cap's question, but we'll come to that in just a second. Like on the inspiration thing, I wanted to chime in as well. My inspirations, I literally, like TallSquall said, books. If people want to know where like 90% of my ideas come from, read the Wheel of Time series. It's a 14-tome series, and most of my one-shot ideas come from certain chapters in there. That's where most of them come from. But for me, I really look at how things work. That's like my thing. I look at the mechanics we've got, whether it's magical or whatever. I try and get down how things work, and then in the middle of the game when I'm improving, I always am thinking, well, what's the worst thing I'd want to happen right now? What's the best thing I'd want to happen right now? And usually, depending how chat either influences the story or what happens, I'll go for either a mix of the two or the best and worst of it, and do that based on what is possible at the time. That's pretty much where my inspirations come from.
So I think my inspiration is one from reading, because from a very young age I just read everything. That's what I did. My parents were very into, you read everything and you go to bed and read or whatever. So, but I read a wide variety of things as well. So I think I read from pure fantasy at seven between the ages of 7-8. I was reading The Lord of the Rings, and then as I got older, I branched out into things like the Sherlock Holmes things and such. So there's a wide variety. And also, the one thing my degree has been useful for so far, I use so much of my history degree in my campaigns and everything. So, I mean, I twist it, I change it. I use Greek myths, I use Egyptology, I use everything I do, especially because I specialized in ancient history and like the Crusades and things like that. That's all in there. It's also a lot of that is coming up in the podcast. The other thing that is quite cute. Okay, so my parents daily, they get this thing where if they're looking online, or they get like a word of the day, if they think it's interesting or something, they think about it, they send it to me and they go, they have no idea what D&D is. They keep asking me and they don't quite get it, but they keep sending me little things to help me with it. Or I also did a couple of modules in archaeology at university. So in the current campaign, Scrat's character Aylar actually has something, which is a real thing. It's called I can't remember what it's called in the campaign. It's like it's a shard of like misty quartz stone glass, and I gave it to Aylar's character, and it's supposed to be if you're out on the sea and there's mist everywhere, if you hold it up around, it will pick up where the sun is, so you can navigate yourself. And that is a real thing. I did not make that up. That is a real instrument that the Vikings used to use to do all that. So honestly, history and little quirky things like that helped me so much. And I've also had questions before how I get my twists and turns and shock reveals, which Adam is still getting used to. I think that actually came from a completely different thing. So when I got to senior school, I was told I was dyslexic. So I went to a dyslexia specialist school that taught kids, they'd see how you would learn things and try and teach you another way. So my brain technically works differently in how I absorb information and how I portray information. So I thought, what if I do that in a campaign and then see if people will get it? Because there's some very obvious, simple clues, but because I think differently, other people won't see it. So that's not necessarily inspiration for story, but it's a way of telling it.
So before chat runs too far, let's go back. This sort of ties in where history's given you a lot of ideas. Mark asks, how do you guys deal with the overload of ideas when your mind races with idea after idea?
Notebooks.
Yeah, I mean,
Notebooks.
The trick is, I mean, for me, if I at least get them down, I usually can then concentrate back on what the problem at hand is. And that's one of the nice things when you do build a giant world.
Yours is huge right now.
Yeah, just a just stupidly massive world. You can sort of convince yourself, oh, I'll put that in the Northern Wastes. We'll get to that later. Don't worry, brain. I'm not forgetting you. I have plans for that thing that you think is the coolest thing right now. But right now, I need to work on this tavern. Yes, I agree that whatever that it's like that actually gets into spoilers, as we might go to the Northern Wastes eventually. But I thought of this whole civilization. Let me go ahead and I will just put them somewhere else because it's really cool. But I mean, one of those ideas, just as a quick example, and it's become actually a pretty cool thing. This isn't spoilery at all because it is become a key thing there. There's always that mysterious traveler from across the sea. And sort of thinking of Alice was saying, usually it's this exotic merchant city across the sea where these people are coming from and exotic goods are coming from. They're mysterious. I mean, it's the Marquette in Critical Role. It's the whatever. And I was kind of like, well, let me think about this differently because everyone has the exotic merchant thing. I mean, I've already done the scary big forest in the middle of the continent, trope. So I'm like, well, what can I do something different? I was like, well, let's not have it be a merchant thing. Let's have it run a little bit differently. And so with that, I was just sort of thinking, and I was like, and got hung up on this idea, which is I created Qualvarine, which is our mysterious city across the street, but it's the city of art. It is the timeless city of art where currency is your artistry. It's where the master artisans come from. And it's a timeless city, has never fallen because one of my, my party loves throwing this back in my face. It is all the beauty and horror that is art. The art of war, the art of torture, the art of brutality are also celebrated there just as much as the art, of beauty and splendor. And so it is this city based on artistry. Since it then becomes very cool also because we have a bard in our party. And they've bumped into, people who hate Qualvarine, people love Qualvarine, people who are in awe of Qualvarine. And my brain would not let it go. And so I built this entire city. I'm just like, it's over there. It's across the sea because, I did just enough to get it out of my brain that I felt good about it. And the nice part is, I mean, I haven't fully discovered it in my brain, but the party hasn't either. And so I can just sort of, whatever my Qualvarinian ideas are, I can throw them into like pebbles towards the party. And because it's this mysterious but legendary city with all of these rumors and weird stuff around it, you can take those cool, when you're talking about Capricorn Cross, Mark, these great ideas, and you just can't stand not to share them. Have it be for a legendary area, a legendary city, a mysterious thing. And if for some reason it doesn't fit in later, the great thing about legends is 50% of it is drunken sailor stories. and that it can be that, nope, that's not, what are you talking, someone eventually in the campaign can be just like, you believe that, or someone, later in the campaign can be like, oh yeah, that's exactly the way it is. No matter how outlandish it seems. So
this is something I'm looking forward to for running a campaign again, because I've not run a campaign for a good few months. I've just been running one-shots the whole time. And the nice thing about one-shots is that when you get this great idea, you're like, brilliant, that's what the next one-shot is. And you can just write it out as a one-shot. Easy. So I actually have the other problem where quite often I run out of ideas. And I have to try and think of something, and then that's when I look towards my video cabinet and I look towards other things, and I'm like, right, let's get some inspiration. But I'm kind of looking forward to, in the campaign, having these opportunities to build not only the epic bits, which are the bits that I seem to focus on like one-shots, but also things like the taverns and the little bits that can... Because I know that the epic things, the big cool things, that you're exactly hit it on the head, they come from legends. They come from things that people say, and then you're like, oh, that's a great idea, I'll do something with that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
I can't wait to see into your brain, man.
Yeah. But I love details for me as well. I'm all about the little details that just make, like, just tweak something and make it slightly more, I don't know what the word is really, like personalized, I guess, to like
Real.
Yeah, it just makes it real. By adding those tiny details, it's far more believable that something.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm number one Matt Mercer fanboy, but it was interesting because I am in a this scary position of going into our first really big urban setting, and thank goodness they've just gone through the whole Zadash. Here's how he introduced a very large city to his party. But it was interesting because and there's a lot of broad strokes there. But just recently, their journey into Barrel Bend, for those who watch, and sorry if it's a little spoilery, but it's really more about description. This tavern that they made up, that they stayed at, that was built on on top of the old sunken tower, and that you have to go up a rope ladder to get to there. And he was describing the room, and he was like, and above the bar there are three flickering oily torches, and just by doing those few descriptions, built on top of the old sunken tavern, you have to climb a rope ladder to get up into it, that the floor is not is a little bit 10 or 15 degrees off, that here's the bar, the guy standing behind it, there's one, two, three, count them, three smoky torches above it, there's a little construction going on in the corner, the rooms are through a hatch in the floor. Those little things like that, I can see that tavern in my brain just as clear as if I was standing in it. Mm-hmm. And just by those like 10 little descriptions, or 5 even, half dozen descriptions of very specific details, like Alice was saying, and it can just bam, pop you right there into, does that tavern look the same as yours? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. But we all can visualize this sunken, mine is very Louisiana Bayou looking. Someone else's from another part of the world could be whatever, could be Bangladesh very Bangladesh looking, or I don't know, the Great Swamps or things like that might be in Europe. I mean, maybe it's the more the Highlands. Yours is looking more like something in the Highlands. Highlands are dry, aren't they? I don't know.
And
they're either super boggy or they're really dry. I know that.
Or bog. There you go, like the old English bogs, type idea.
Yeah. One of the things that I think we both use, as all three of us use as well, is imagery. So I know TallSquall, you put images in the middle of your stream while you're running live, and I'll change the background to suit the theme of the one shot, and I think that can really help as well. So like yesterday, we had the Brothel Chroniclers playing again, and I always have like a Baroque building in the background when those guys are playing that looks very grandeur and everything, just to set the tone. And I think that helps with the description as well, because when you describe a grand hall, well, look, there's a grand hall in the background there. That looks about right, like it's
quite, I find it's quite important to describe the architecture the people are in, and then it can also set the mood. So what Ambly, who's in chat, will remember. So I took, I had to sort of think of it quite quickly, and the characters were all in a library. Now, this was a grand library, but I used one feature which was from a real place, and that's I can't remember the name of it, but there is a church in Rome that has a huge domed ceiling with a hole in the center, no glass or anything.
Yep.
So I used that, but then by doing that, giving that one specific detail and just adding a few more simpler details, they'd already got in their head what this looked like. So sometimes I think one big feature and then tiny little ones, and then they fit it all in themselves.
Absolutely. And I think that sort of somewhat goes to Baron Pleasant's comment there, asking about cinematic aesthetic purposes. And again, you getting into so much exposition that you either lose your players or it seems like, it's the DM writing a novel. And one of the great tricks of that is give you a sort of something to focus on, something that just immediately gives you the mood. It can, and this, I'm going to roll up, a little bit to the question that Paisley asked about unique NPCs in each town. Yes, the place might be inhabited by 10, 15 NPCs. 2, maybe 3, depending on how long your party is going to be in the town, is truly all that you need to develop. And the other ones can be background characters. So you can have 10 developed NPCs that you really kind of know about and have done that. And it can be those same 10 in a lot of your cities, but the ones that the party interacts with directly, they only are going to interact with these main 3, or you could do variations on the theme. And for a traveling campaign, you can make NPCs similar. This was throwaway NPC. We talked about NPCs that just keep them. Our noodle cart vendor in our crossroads city, Knob, the Noblin, who is a half gnome, half goblin, who makes noodles, has now created the entire Noblin Mafia, who is merchants across the entire place. I mean, you want to talk about something that was never planned, and mainly because they've got a Brooklyn kind of New York accent, but whenever they bump into a Noblin, immediately there's a connection with the body to the Noblins. And we've got art on them, we got all this stuff, and you're the very legitimate business. You're the sort of the guys who we just run in our own business, and they finally have met their first I won't say mean, they've met their first Noblin, who basically is the bartender at kind of what's an airport bar, who is their first sort of not best friend Noblin. And it threw them for a little bit, but it gave this huge amount of familiarity to the party, even though it's been now 4 different characters who are Noblins. They've almost become like our party's Gilmore. It's a Noblin, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's an accent I can do. Problem is, once I do it, I can't do any other accent for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
The rest of the session.
That ties into a question we had earlier. Ambry, we'll get to your question in a second, but we had Lightfingery and Paisley both asking about NPCs. How do you keep, and towns from Paisley? How do you keep the uniqueness of towns and NPCs, balance out how they are from place to place, and that sort of thing? And accents is a big part of it for me. I'll give an NPC an accent, and everything else will just immediately come from that.
So Scrat will know this. I've just started being brave enough to give more of an accent to like my characters and stuff like that. So I've got an Irish character, which is in Encounter Roleplay at the moment, and I'm trying all these different accents. I find though, if I am in an accent heavy group, whoever I speak to, I will pick up that accent no matter which one I'm starting on. So I will have an Irish accent, and I think we were having a discussion in the car yesterday at how bad my accents flip into something else. But I guess that's character building.
Yeah, Alice yesterday was trying to do an Italian accent, but it just kept coming out as like not even Russian. It kept coming out as like proper like African. I don't even know which state, but like.
It was so bad.
I was like, wow, that's a really good African accent, Alice, but you're not aiming for that, are you? And she was just like, no! But yeah, when it comes to NPCs, I like to help give the descriptor. If I'm thinking of a bigger sort of NPC, I'll give him a bigger voice. And same for like, if it's someone, someone a little smaller, you give them a little small voice, and that sort of thing, and that really just like I think helps define the NPCs.
Also, think of people you know. Like, think
Yes.
of people you. I do this all the time. I will think of people I know, whether it's a personality quirk, whether it's how they physically look, or anything like that. I had an NPC which I did not plan for at all. And the group were just like, yeah, let's go talk to that one. And I panicked. And I basically made this character who is one of my best friends. And I didn't realize it until Scrat said afterwards, you even gave it her name, but I didn't notice. However, I had in my head this character. But yeah, I take a lot of influence from people I know, and stuff like that, just around. Or even if you've watched, like, if you watch cartoons, films, read books, anything, like, think of the wide variety of characters out there. Are they big? Are they small? Are they wide? Are they like, are they skinny? Are they wiry? Are they fat? Are they, like, all of it? You just think of one trait, and I find it gradually builds around it. So
I love the knob art. I love it. I remember when
Oh,
we were doing
it's some
I'm
of my
looking
favorite.
now.
Some of my
when you
favorite
were getting
art.
really
Oh, yeah.
hyped about the knobbling wrestling, and in the end, it didn't even happen. Did it? It ended up as a
No, we
bathroom
did.
scene.
We ended up having
Like-
a bathhouse episode instead.
Yeah, which was also amazing. But I just remember the hype for the knobbling wrestling and all the artwork that was coming out at the time. It was so cool. There was another question though. There was another question. I think we'll do this question and then I've got a bit of a reveal. Where is it? Ambly. TallSquall, how do you approach the player's backstory? Do you start with the backstory, or is it something you want to explore later in the story and let it reveal over time?
So, this is a different approaches to your campaign, and that is, there was a big, long sort of argument discussion on Twitter about this, of the sort of Matt Koval version of DMing and the Matt Mercer version of DMing, which is, one is a very, I got to remember, one is like fantasy and the other is fiction. In fantasy, you have a story, your book, your story, what you're telling sort of revolves around these characters. So the backstory is something you kind of want to, you make the assumption that there is something to resolve in their backstory, or something that is worth exploring further in their backstory. For fiction, it is more, there's this world that you are having going on, and the players are just experiencing a world that doesn't necessarily, quote unquote, revolve around them. There's more to the story than just players. Sorry, as I dig sleep out of my eyes. And those are the two different pieces of it. D&D to me is the combination of both of those. And you can do it either way. But certainly in my campaign, there's this giant world that is happening. If our party would have all stayed in where they grew up and never left home, the world would have still happened. The events of the world would have happened and resolved in one way or another. Now that the party's involved, there are potentially things from their backstory that affect all of that. And we've seen that a couple times. I did ask my players to give me 3 stories from your backstory of people, encounters, things that occurred. I won't call them skeletons in the closet, but they can be, type idea. Give me 3 things that your NPC wishes. Actually, I have 5 things. I did that. 5 bucket list items of your NPC. I'm not your NPC, your PC. They've always wanted to sail on a boat. They've always wanted to, meet a dragon. They've always whatever. And I even did give me 3 to 5 bucket list items of you as a player that you've never experienced in D&D, that you want to experience. That being said, in a big long, I'm already a year and a half into my campaign. There's probably at least a year and a half, if not 2.5 years left to go, if we make it that far, which is in doubt after this last episode, of fitting things in. So to bring in backstory pieces, I've brought in, one of my favorite ones that resolved itself. One of my party members said, yeah, when I was, traveling with this caravan, the owner had these dogs, these hounds, which now has become an entire arc to their story, that they were being chased by these hounds that then, after being killed once, were came back to life, and then were undead hounds that were doing it. All that type of stuff. I didn't do any spoilers there. You already have already met the hounds, and so so that type of thing to come bring back in. I mean, we also had an arc, for those of you who might have looked at my my YouTube, Lily's story, which is about a story that seemed totally unrelated to the party, but then in a Alice worthy twist at the end, ended up being directly related to a member of our party. And so that became interesting, which came from their backstory. So yeah, I mean, even if you don't make it be a huge, I'm sorry, Critical Role reference, that it's, the Chroma Conclave happens to be related directly to Vex and Vax, it can be just these NPCs you met are, from that. Well, Alicia, she had in her backstory that she had these goblin brothers who were interested with. Well, since we love our noblins, turns out they were not really goblins. She just was uninformed. They were noblins, and she bumped into them later on. And one of them still has a crush on her. And it was cute, and so it was a fun little way of, hey, your character has always existed in this world. And I think that's what backstory is good for when you bring it back, is it's not just this. Even if it was an isolated village, people move around, stuff happens. If you can throw in something to make your players really feel like their character has always been a part of this world, I mean, it's a great brings a smile to their face. And that's, I mean, what more do you want as a DM than to have your players feel special?
It's the
I think,
whole
like, one of the other things, because Scott and I do it, you mentioned about like what your characters, you say like bullet points, what if they always wanted to do or whatever. We do we need something like 3 long-term goals and 3 short-term goals is what we do sometimes with characters to help.
Yeah, we did that in the campaign, didn't we? One of the things that I've started doing with backgrounds recently is basically, because I'm doing more and more one-shots and less campaigns, although, like I say, we're starting a new campaign on Tuesday. One of the things I've started doing is, if I've got plenty of ideas, I don't worry too much about the backstory. I let the guys come along. It's going to be shenanigans, whatever happens. It's a one-shot. If I don't have much of an idea, I start throwing questions at the players about their players. So like, so where did you grow up? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I guess I grew up here. Why did you leave there? And just all these like different questions until I find. I mean, we call it backstory. I call it plot device. Until I find something that I can just go, yes, this I can use. Now you have an attachment to the story. Your mother is sick. Brilliant. This is a plot device. Like that's. I've started doing that a lot. I did that yesterday actually in the one shot with Grant, Susie, and all of those guys. Where I'd pretty much worked all of them into the story with a family member one way or another. And it was only a one shot, but like we had people turning into werewolves, and half the party are like, oh my god, let's kill it. And the other half are like, don't do that, that's my mum! Like, which is just great. Now, I do have a little bit of a reveal, you guys. I've got a new thing. One of the things that the Academy has been lacking, and the channel has been lacking, is a logo. So I've had our resident artist Ambly,
who is amazing.
I've had her working on a logo for us, and I'll transition that in now. I've just submitted the emotes to go and get approved, but there it is above chat for you all now. There's the logo, the new Scraticus Academy logo. I don't know, I feel like I should put music on or something. Yeah.
But you can get it, like, we're doing it for, like, because it's the Academy, we were going for the idea of, like, if you want to get it on a jumper or something, it's like a graduation hoodie or something like that. So if you've taken part, you've graduated from the Scraticus Academy, and that is the logo of it. So
Okay, so I just have one question. Where's the link to the merch? I'm not even kidding, dude.
I will be uploading that right now. Let's do that.
But she's been
Hey,
working
look,
really hard on
I'm not
it.
the only one. Everyone's calling out, man. Where's the merch?
It's awesome. She's been working on it for ages. Both of us have been going back and forth with her on ideas, but it's awesome.
Dude, I love it.
So it's really awesome.
The sword and the axe, the magic, the ranger and the bard.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a thing.
But on because I think we go through Redbubble, don't we? So you can put it on anything. You can put it on hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts.
I love Redbubble.
Notebooks, everything. So it's like a graduation hoodie because we figured you're learning. It's an academy. Yeah. So yeah, look, Ambly was up
academy scarf. That'd be so awesome.
Ambly was up till 3 a.m. to try and finish it for today. So
it is amazing. It is amazing. We'll get some. Let's see. I have some of them. Yep, stickers, dresses.
Yeah, they do dresses on Redbubble now.
Redbubble is amazing. Yeah. Oh, you can have Scrat Academy leggings. I want some of those.
What?
Dude, I'll wear them to the gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta have a drawstring bag and a notebook as well. I might get a notebook for myself actually.
But
okay, how do we? Okay, so I went to your Redbubble link, and I'm not seeing how I get the logo on my different merch.
Hang on. I'm just enabling it now.
Okay, gotcha. Everyone hit the reload.
Yeah, everyone's just like, come on.
Reload. I feel like I'm trying to get reservations for Gen Con.
But I really want a
it needs a title.
Academy sweater. So I love it. I love that. It's becoming the Hogwarts of D&D. All we need now is houses.
The Hogwarts of D&D.
We need houses now. We've got to be sorted into houses.
Actually, we should totally come up with your 4 quadrants. You should come up with names. Well,
you could do you could have certain names that have the symbols which are on the.
Oh, absolutely.
Ambly, we've got a job for you.
Yeah, you've just gained so much work.
Yeah.
There we go. That's why it's not going up. So it's just processing now.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you're right. Redbubble does take a second for it to process. So check back in a few.
But yeah,
I mean, I want to get one myself for. Ambly's like, what? But I really want to get one for myself as well. It's like if I want to get like a sweater or a hoodie or something. But I'm so chuffed with the design.
Okay, so it should be uploaded now. If you refresh now, it says my work is successfully added. I'll also add the black and white version. But I'll do that in the background. That's cool. So you guys, it's there now.
Not quite.
Should be. Hang on. I've just read. It was successfully added. It can take up to 15 minutes to appear in your portfolio. I should have done this earlier. There it is.
Fluff. I like the Tabby Fluff House.
Yeah.
We need to have the secret house of DMing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, that's like
there's the 4 main houses, and then there's the secret house of the DMs.
Oh yes.
Ooh, I like this.
Again, Ambly, we may have some work for you.
Okay, so to Alice, I just want to know if you're right where I am. I am totally already building a campaign around the Scraticus Academy.
Yeah.
About adventures in Scraticus Academy.
Going through the years.
Yes, absolutely. Going through the years of people starting at level 1, getting sorted, and having competitions.
So good. I've been so excited for this for so long. So.
Oh yeah, we could do the logo in different colors as well for the different houses.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
Just got to think of houses now, and we've got the symbols already because I think those symbols represent everything super well. So, other than a DM one, you need to think of a DM one. But
well, that's the whole thing. The DM wouldn't be on the logo.
Exactly. It's got to be.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, what you would do is it would be like all grayed out. So it's almost like like when you're in Roll20 when it or when you're on the GM screen, and so it'd be the actual thing be grayed out, and then there would be like and just 2 eyes over top, like overlaid on top of it. Sorry.
I love it. But yeah, that's what we've been.
And the emotes are already been submitted. Hopefully Twitch will approve those, and they'll be with us soon. So there'll be a second tier emote as the color version, and also we're going to make a golden logo for third tier emotes. But I believe Ambly is also working on that sometime in the week, because
Nice.
she does also have a job. You see, that's the like I've sort of like stolen her, but she does also have a job. So yeah, college hoodie. I couldn't see any hoodies on Redbubble. Why aren't there any?
Yeah,
hoodies?
you've got lightweight hoodie, normal hoodie, sweater, lightweight sweater.
Dude, I've got if they sell like the t-shirt hoodies, that's like my thing for down in Orlando. It's a trick to find them though, because a lot of people's lightweight hoodie is still a fleece.
Yeah.
It's like a jumper. Whereas if you can find, I mean, that's a nice. This is from like one of the bodybuilding sites. They do actual t-shirt fabric, but in a hoodie. I love them because they're like they're great for here in Orlando, and I can be all scary DMing.
Yeah. Just when you need to be.
You have the soft hood.
Yeah. Don't mess with me. Welcome to my. Yeah.
It works really well with
Woo,
it.
look at me showing off all my not hair that I have.
Oh yeah.
I wish I had anime hair. I want anime hair like my good friend Bird versus Plane. Anyway, sorry, I've not been paying attention, Jack. Let's go back to
me neither. I got all excited.
Sorry, we were all excited.
We'll check Redbubble at the end to see if it's uploaded.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know. So yeah, there was a question about this. Well, Paisley has one. For my first game as a DM, I didn't want to demand things from my players. Well, and again, I can tell you I had very different levels of participation in my. I said I asked for these questions. Some people literally were like, "Bam, bam, bam," super thing. For my buddy Danny, he gave me literally generation, because he's from an elf. I got like 150 years worth of generational lore for his family. Alicia, who is not big into writing everything down, we had a conversation, and I took some notes from the conversation. I mean, that's where her Noblin boyfriends came from. One of the nice things, I think, I know I keep quoting Matt Mercer, but I'm a fanboy. Said, one of the greatest gifts that you can give your DM is some leniency with your backstory. I mean, when it's very rigid, you kind of, you don't want to step on your player's toes of them telling you, here's what every moment of my life was, since I was born, and here's some of the highlights, idea. So, judge by your players. If they are just not into it at all, I mean, that's fine. But I would also say, hey, I might throw some things your way that you're going to be, work with me when I say, an old childhood friend shows up, or someone who says that they know you shows up, type idea. Play it by ear.
That's the other thing. Always check, especially. So one of our characters in A Necromancer's Wish, she gave me so much about her backstory, and I'm talking loads and loads. And I sat down, I was like, right, how much am I allowed to either manipulate or, not destroy, but like manipulate what I have, and how much can I use? And she gave me full reign to change it, because she was suffering from memory loss. Her character was suffering from memory loss anyway. So I took the opportunity to completely manipulate her backstory, but which she loved, and she was like, this is awesome, I love it, but always check, like, because it could really upset someone if you alter their backstory without asking. Not only that, and you'll never get the right reaction out of it. I find if you upset someone with it, it'll put a bad taste in their mouth for the rest of the campaign. So
Lord Conti asks, how do you guys feel about world building when you're tick tock tick tack tick tock tick tack? How do you guys feel about world building with your players in a session 0? I did it once, giving each player 7 things they could do and going around the table, letting them put their ideas for the creation myth of the world. So, I cheat. I don't really bother doing much world generation, and I will do it live. So when people say, oh, didn't this happen a few years ago or something like that? I'm very much like, yes. Yes, it did. I will happily borrow my players' creativity and use it as my own. I don't know what's going on with you right now, TallSquall. What's going on?
We were talking about losing hair and hats, and so we talking about their hat collection. It's like literally guarding all my hats that I have for when I'm feeling especially bold.
I love hats. I can just never find hats that suit me.
I was going to say, and actually, the sad part is, and that whole wall of hats as well.
I love hats.
Oh yeah, I wish I had a better hat face. I got a big old lantern jaw, so sometimes they look silly on me.
I find hats a struggle.
No, hats really suit Alice. Alice just struggles to believe it. Yeah. Well, how about you guys? What do you guys do? Feel about the Session Zero world building?
I do like. I mean, I don't necessarily think about world building. Okay, let me go back and read the question, so I'm actually answering the right question. So my Session Zeros, when I've done them, which are, I mean, me participating in them, not running one, have always been more about backstory. But so to actually build the world with the party, that's very interesting. I mean, that's a neat idea of actually having your party come together and build a world that, certainly one of the pieces of that is trying to keep, I mean, for me, it'd be trying to keep some, structure to it. However, I will also say, Daniel's not out there. Templar Warden, is anyone out there who played that game with Templar Warden where you draw the map and come up with, to create a world by drawing a map in turns? We played it and it was actually really cool. And we came up with this world with, there was a waterfall and there was a mine that had this mysterious mine, and there was a giant prairie that had the legend of the purple bison and all this type of stuff. And actually, by the end of it, you could have built a campaign around it. So certainly, I think if you do some kind of structure like that, and golly, I can't remember the name of it, it could absolutely could work. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's down to what you want from the campaign and also what your players want from the campaign. I mean, sometimes I like building a complete world and throwing people into it, and sometimes they really like that because it's like an all new exciting thing. I want to go discover this and that. However, I do like the idea of players participating and help create. It reminds me of that game where you say a line of a story and then the next person in the circle goes around has to say the next line. So it's kind of like that. It's literally what you want from the game, I think, but there's nothing wrong with it at all. If anything, it's a really good idea.
Way back up from before the logo, Dragons and Cats brought something up interesting, and it's a good topic. And because it was something that we ended up doing, I had brought on Dragons or Cats as a guest player, mainly just because of the fact that he is 14 hours. Is he 14 now or 16? Right now, he's at 14 hours time difference with our group. So he gets up at literally like 3 a.m. to come play with us. I'm not even kidding. Or 4 a.m. to come play with us.
That is commitment right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But originally, because it's 16 hours in our winter, his summer. So then it was that he was getting up at 6 a.m. So it wasn't as big of a deal. And he was just going to play through the summer. But, we all kind of thought he was, fun player. We love the character, that sort of stuff. And I offered him, I said, hey, if you want to stay on, you can. It's up to you. It means that you're getting up at dark, whatever, as the time change happens. And he was like, sure. But then we had the big challenge of taking what was going to be all but just like a player-controlled NPC that joined the party for this one dungeon crawl to give them a little more horsepower through it and give them some lore tie-in to now being a part of the world and integrating a new player into a campaign that was already, that was probably episode 25 or so, about 25 sessions in, half a year in. So I'd love to talk to both Alice and Scrat of if you've had to do it, how you did it, and what were some of the things to make them become sort of a part of the group. I mean, I would pretty much say, I mean, Alicia, you can chime in and be a diva, that he's now just a part of our gang, and it's almost like he's been there the whole time. Of course, he keeps getting his fingers broken by our monk, who is not a big fan of the character. But I guess Alicia, the player, tolerates him enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's not because I do a lot. Like I say, because I'm mainly doing one shots at the minute. I don't really handle the having to bring people in halfway through or anything like that. So I sort of avoid that problem really. I don't know what will happen in the next season.
I think I've done it once, but IRL. I had to bring him in once. But he also didn't stay for very long. So I've never had to integrate someone into a campaign or anything like that halfway through. However, I think it'd be really interesting to do. Like I kind of want to do it as a thing. It's another challenge, but I like it. So
yeah, I mean, so I guess then it's back to me. So kind of what we did. I mean, we need to give him a little. So it's interesting. Almost by accident, he had actually appeared as an NPC within the campaign earlier, because I did a test run of, oh my God, can I actually DM and stream type thing, where I needed some play testers, and it was Ishman, Wraith, Wraithian Gaming, and Dragons or Cats, played in a one shot that I did in my campaign world to that a piece of that, our little whiskey goblin, our whiskey goblin. I think it was a whiskey goblin. He definitely was whiskey. It wasn't a gnome. Yeah, it was definitely a whiskey goblin. Was being shipped to one of for a party that the NPCs had to do later, and so his character and that little party had delivered it to then the main party take possession of in the actual campaign. So they were already a little bit in canon for the story. So they had that little piece of it. But then once he got there, it was kind of figuring out, here's where you were, here's who you are. They were still level 4-ish. So bringing him in wasn't too big of a deal. But now it's become his piece of this, and it's nice. We always wanted him to be sort of this he was an Eladrin when Eladrin were still just in the GM's guide. We wanted him to be odd and out of place, and had sort of, I was using him very much as a way to tell some lore of the world, some of the ancient lore of the world. And as we've moved forward, he is still sort of that voice of how do you let your players know, if you're in a homebrew world, how do you let your players know about things that happened 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, the creation of your world, the pantheon of the world? How do you do that? And so it was nice when I realized that was a huge thing that was missing, that otherwise would have had to be done through exposition or our lore master, mage, or wizard reading books, library sessions, and me standing there with exposition, that we now had a character who could experience that and could bring their experience as they are reliving their past lives. In our world, Eladrin are basically not true. They don't time travel, but they regenerate. It's how you explain. So how did you have this ancient character who's a level 4? Well, he's just come out of regeneration, and he has to level up to 20 again before he's at his full power. And so that way, it was a way to explain a character with ancient knowledge and ancient firsthand experience in a low-level campaign. So it got interesting. But I mean, I claim that I pretty much from day one, I said, I need you to be a little bit crazy. I need you to be a little bit wacky. And I need you to be just like, sort of a wild card in the party. Sometimes, and he's certainly been that. Iskrit has definitely been the wild card in the party. So yeah.
Oh, just thing. The Academy logo has just gone live on Redbubble, so it's now
Sweet.
live. On
Now,
Redbubble.
now, Ellie has pointed out that there should be an apostrophe in the Let's. I'm so torn.
Oh, but I kind of like.
I'm not a big, putting an apostrophe, because I mean, it's going to make your whole banner wider.
Yeah, and it might disjoint the words. If you saw what I mean.
It's your call, but I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ellie. We're gonna leave it. I think we're gonna leave it.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man.
I mean, yeah, apostrophes are tough, and a lot of times people do leave them out of things like that. I mean, to me,
I think it's
it's
because
all it's all you scrap.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, I'm not touching this.
Fine. It'll be fine. I've nearly already ordered everything anyway. Rip it down. But it's wrong. I
think. Sorry, going back to the whole D&D thing, is that I like talking to other DMs as well, just to bounce ideas off of each other, or whether I could give ideas, or like, because I don't think there's anything wrong with another DM coming to you, or you going to another DM going, I'm really stuck. What do I do for this? And because I think every DM is different, they can always offer like a fresh idea or something like that. Well, Scrat and I are completely different DMs. We are probably polar opposites, lots of people have said. But we tend to help each other with ideas and stuff when we're not in the same game as each
That's
other.
something that me and Alice experience quite a lot, actually, is that me and Alice hardly ever get to play together. We're usually always DMing for one another, which is good. I mean, I especially like being a player when Alice is a DM. Like, I think Alice... Amelie, no. But like, I feel like Alice can really get the best out of me as a player because she knows the way my mind works, and she will literally tailor the story knowing the way that I'm going to react.
It allows for more plot hooks and stuff as well when you know your characters. That's another reason you want to sit down and chat and get to know the people you're playing with in a campaign, because I feel you can really just and we both come from completely different inspiration backgrounds. So Scrat is an engineer and is a very logical thinker, and I am literally complete opposite of that. There is not much logic in my thinking. But yeah, I think the first time we actually played together was when we played The Old Couple for Kiena, which almost destroyed her because she couldn't cope. Because we did a stream because we couldn't put it on stream because of the age limit of one of the players, but we did stream the character creation, and we did two old people, one that couldn't hear and one that, what was it? Didn't he have like really bad memory or something? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, that was great. You gotta be quiet first.
Yeah.
You're old. I was in that one.
When we were making the characters.
I think I was in a good chat when y'all were doing it. Of doing The Old Couple.
I had my little air horn.
Yes, with your air horn.
We had a lot of fun with that one. That one's only on YouTube. We didn't stream it because there was an underage child with us, and Twitch Terms of Service are very clear on that. But we did put it on YouTube to give this younger new person very much feels like an academy, bringing the youth into D&D.
Yeah.
And it was such a good game. Such a good game.
It was fun, and I look forward to like when we can play in the same game a lot more, because I think we've got so many character ideas like backed up that we're like, we have to use them.
Oh yeah, like the game we were going to be playing today, me and Alice were really excited about playing a couple in that, like actually working together, like ooh.
Yeah.
And I'm liking Baron Pleasant's idea. It looks like Amber's going to have a look at the apostrophe when she gets in. So if you guys want a limited edition no apostrophe logo, get in now, because I'm going to update it with one with an apostrophe. So rare merch now. Buy now.
Rare merch. I love it.
Can I order one without an apostrophe? I think I want one without. Yeah,
all the cool kids will have it without the apostrophe. Yeah, the exclusive pre-release.
Yeah. All the ones
You had
in
to
the
watch,
stream.
if you had to watch the June Academy in order
Yeah.
to get the pre-release.
Yeah, no, I think I am gonna have to get.
Hey, Cricket Dice Gaming, welcome. Sorry.
It's bad to hear about the rap, but good, welcome. How's your toilet doing, Crit?
Hang on, there is a rat in the what? Like not a pet, like a loose rat.
Like an actual
Like
wild
a
rat.
rat
Like a wild
on
rat
the
appears.
This, could. Oh, I don't know how much. No.
But I'm not sure if that answered the question about integrating. But I mean, I think you've got to let your party has to be a part of it to bring people in.
Yeah.
And I did I sprang the guest, then being a guest on the party, and actually, I guess I sort of sprang he's staying as well. But at that point, I think everybody it was so obvious that everyone was having a great time playing with him that there wasn't an issue. But it's not a bad idea. This is just my own personal thoughts on this. If you are going to have someone into a pre-existing campaign, bring them on as a guest first. That gives you an out if for some reason it's not working.
Yeah. One of the things I like to do sometimes, this is back when I used to do IRL D&D years ago, but one of the things I like to do was bring them in as a villain. And then do the whole, see how the dynamic works, and then do the whole Dragon Ball Z thing of where they just inevitably, every villain becomes part of the team eventually.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
I think the only exclusion is Frieza. That's about it.
I do love creating villains, though. That's one of my favorite things to do, because I feel, especially with the more role-playing side that's coming in, you can get really experimental with villains. It doesn't just have to be a big, I don't know, bad monster that you have to have a fight with. It can be someone completely different. In fact, Scrat said to me about one of my villains in A Necromancer's Wish, which was the Doctor, and he didn't like him because they weren't fighting. He couldn't touch him.
Yeah.
So it made it a bit more crazy. In fact, this guy was an older guy who was quite weedy. However, you could not touch him. So they've had to try and work out a way of getting around it at the moment. So it's quite interesting in that respect.
Do you miss IRL D&D with all the online games you play?
No, because we live nowhere near our friends. So
yeah, that's the main problem.
It's interesting. I had a real life game. My very first foray back into I guess might have been my second. My first game was the Del Terre campaign, which was online because I couldn't find a real life game. I then got a real life game, which when it involves getting people to actually get to a place, get together and play, and then with the interrupts that then invariably happen, I actually now prefer online. I mean, I'd love to be able to have more of the one-on-one interaction. But for me, the fact that, I mean, like this morning, that it was like, okay, I mean, I've still got my half a toast and peanut butter here. I've got coffee. I've got this, I've got other stuff that I've get, that it's literally me, staggering with a cup of coffee from my kitchen into my office, and 3 clicks and I'm playing, compared to, well, I probably should shower because I smell and I haven't brushed my teeth yet, and and I should actually probably try to do something with what's left of my hair, and then get in a car and drive there or whatever. Or even even on the same note of, or, oh my God, people are coming to my house, I guess I should
tidy
yes.
That's
tidy
my one fear.
And for me as well, I always find that in IRL, I mean, I still reach out to people online, but IRL, I often have to bring people into D&D who aren't used to playing, don't really want to play, maybe. They just want to come and have a social evening, and it was always a bit of a drawn-out experience where IRL...
No one got into it.
Yeah, we've really struggled to get people immersed just because they weren't that sort of person. It's more difficult, like you were saying earlier, TallSquall, about everyone having a DM for them and the players that match the DMs. I think that's a lot easier online. IRL sometimes, if like me, I was the only person in this area running a game that I know of.
Yep.
So
I actually have a interesting story about that, and it ties into. I highly recommend everybody, if you don't watch any other video on demand type thing, it's only 90 minutes. Go watch Deborah Ann Worrell's DM stream that she did with Matt Mercer and Marisha and Swag, a couple other people, for the Stream of Many Eyes. Here's why. I discovered this and realized just that it is valid. Casual DMing. And that's the best way I know how to describe it. I actually had a good friend of mine who, from the cosplay community, we're super supportive of each other. And he's like, I've tried to watch your show and I can't get into it. I don't understand it. I know that it's incredibly important to you. I love that you're doing something that you really enjoy, but I don't, it's just not something I can get into. And he came down, he was running in a marathon. And so he came down and we just wanted to spend time together. And so it was like normal, do we do the normal thing of put in a movie, but we're all like avid movie watchers. So what happens is you watch the movie and never actually talk. And good on him. He was like, so explain to me this whole thing. I mean, my dice were sitting on the coffee table. It was like, so explain this to me. And I was like, well, we can roll you up a character real quick. And so we did. And, easing him into, we then had a character sheet that we put on, D&D Beyond. What we ended up doing, literally, and I call it casual couch D&D. Me, my other buddy, and him. I had basically D&D Beyond open to the monster thing. The two of them had their character sheets and a set of dice in front of us. We had beer in front of us and just laying back on the couch, not trying to do minis, not trying to do maps, not trying to do anything, all theater of the mind. Just, hey, you guys are in the tavern. Cheers, everyone, have a drink. We all had a drink. And then it was just like, the bartender comes out. He seems to be distressed, when he wants to do a perception check. And it was very much like I say, casual running of a DM. It wasn't me behind a DM screen. It wasn't a prepared type anything. It was hey, we're going to, you're down in the sewers. You meet a kobold because, I just invented some kobolds on my whatever. You talk with him. I did a silly voice. He did a silly voice back. He was, he sort of built Blue Beetle, which is his favorite comic book character. So we sort of, sure, you're an inventor. You have, this grappling hook thing and it's real loose and easy. And by the end of it, we had someone who didn't play D&D at all, not even realize they were necessarily playing D&D. And for the most part, it was three guys who hadn't seen each other in a year, chatting and throwing some dice in the middle. Deborah Ann Worrell's session felt very much like that. She didn't have a DM screen. She just had a notebook. She would flip out, you could see she had some tabs where she could easily flip open to a couple different things that she was doing. But it was just sort of silly, casual fun. And I think that is something we can all learn from for, real life games that don't become a production number. I mean, I literally, when he started to get interested, I was like, okay, I pulled out my graph paper and I was like getting the table set up and I put up a thing, and he was just, and by that point he was like, so I, realized what I was about to rope him into, and it was this. So for all of us who DM in a serious DMing, and I have a 5-year campaign planned, and lore that we're not even going to be able to explore, and so many maps and so many notes.
I know exactly what you mean with the graph paper as well. Like, yeah, I use my the engineer's drawing equipment. It's the advantage engineers have.
Yeah, all that type of stuff. I mean, they thought a giant toad because it had a swallow mechanic, and that with because then we're a bunch of guys that got a giggle out of that. The toad swallows you. I mean, truly, that level of D&Ding, and remember there's joy in that too. I think it's kind of the message on that. I kind of waxed nostalgic there. Sorry, everyone, if I went way down a deep rabbit hole, but you know, real life gaming, I would love to have like a Critical Role scheduled real life game, but I think without that sort of, unfortunately, the pressure of a stream, of a that you're of appointment and a stream and a whatever, it's way too easy to say, I can't quite make it,
I think,
or
And
like,
also, there's the advantage of like having a studio or a gaming room that's already set up. Like for
that you
most of
can
us,
leave out.
yeah, for most of us, if you want to do that, you got to clear off the dining table. You've got to go
Yeah.
and get all your stuff and lay it out,
There's-
and
there's
you know.
like I think only one real few things that I miss about IRL, and that is, I mean, if I was in an area, say like all you guys lived very close, I reckon I'd be so up for meeting up and doing that, because what we used to do every Monday, we had D&D night, everyone would come round and we'd buy beers in and I'd cook dinner for everyone who turned up, and there were like 7 or 8 people, and that atmosphere I really, really liked, because it made Mondays better. Basically, everyone was like, "Oh God, it's Monday! It's the beginning of the week." And we were like, "Well, why don't we do D&D on Monday and make it better?" So that sort of side of it I miss. Otherwise, I think the actual online streaming bit of it. I mean, I've met so many more people this way, like people I consider very close friends and stuff, because we don't have anyone here, so it's quite difficult, because we're not originally from this area, so we don't have any connections to this area, so we don't know anyone. I work from home, so it's not like we go to an office and meet new people. So I think for me, online streaming has done so much. Ambly, for example, Ambly and Ed and Ali and all these sorts of, I never I knew Ed and Ali. For Ambly, I did not meet before D&D, and she came and stayed with us from Sweden for like a week or so, and we celebrated her birthday here.
Oh,
And
that stream, we tried to do it like
yeah, we did our first ever
we sort
round
of
the table stream.
yeah, we did a Critical Role style thing where we just had this one mic in the middle of the table, and everything we did you could hear, and like all the rest of it, but
like, we had snacks.
it was so much fun.
Yeah, and it was really, really nice. But yeah, it was so good, so good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the other thing about doing it this way is that there is, you meet people who you would never necessarily meet, and then you can kind of like, it can be like a a big special thing when you might possibly get the chance to play together at some point. And speaking of, shall we make another announcement on this morning's stream?
Let's do it. It's the big announcement stream. Let's do it. Yeah.
It's the big announcement stream. So speaking of getting together, and because I keep hearing about all this wonderful cooking and stuff, and D&D with cooking, etc. In September, a lovely Straticus and Alice are coming, and we are going to my neck of the woods, and we are going to play some D&D live.
Yeah.
And get all together, and I'm going to have some Alice's cooking, and we're going to go drinking and dancing and do casual D&D, and we're
excited.
formal D&D.
Yeah.
And it is going to be a big old fun time in the Casa TallSquall for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I really want to cook for you.
That's gonna be around my birthday date as well. Like my birthday's on the 6th, and I think we're coming up the week after. So
we're coming up. I think 2 days after your birthday, and 4 days after our first ever wedding anniversary. So we're doing D&D.
Yeah. So our wedding anniversary / birthday present is to go and visit TallSquall.
So yeah, I am super duper excited.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great time. So yeah, no, it's we might have to figure it out. I mean, we probably could set something up and do some kind of a stream. I mean, I'd have to figure out cameras. I think we could probably make it work.
I can bring my laptop, because all my camera gear comes with me everywhere, which includes the laptop. Which
right.
camera and everything. So that's
So yeah, I was gonna say between my rig and your rig, we might even be able to do like a multi-camera thing.
Exactly. We can do both.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't think I'm going to be able to ship my PC across. I'm just
Oh
looking
no.
at it.
Yeah, that's
It's
not
Oh
happening.
yeah. No PCs. I mean, well, I'm even thinking that I probably wouldn't move my tower out. I mean, I've got my big tower back here, even out of the office. I think if nothing else, my Surface could be another capture device,
Hmm.
and
yeah.
most likely we'll probably have my buddy Nick and his wife, who were Nick is he's my big consultant on the Vice. Yeah,
Yeah,
all that.
we've already got an extra. Well, we can bring our actual webcams anyway, but I've got a built-in
Oh, yeah,
to
we've
my
got
laptop.
webcams for days. We can bring those.
Bring it
Yeah.
all, and we'll
We
make
can
it
figure
work.
it out. And between mics and that type of stuff, I mean, heck,
Yeah.
I would go. We need to pick up a couple extra mics. I would do that. That was not a big deal. But
I
yeah,
need to
no,
get one anyway because
I've got a
people
big
can't.
giant dining room table, so we could make this. We might have some academy on the road.
Yeah, that could
Oh,
be.
that'd
Yeah.
be so awesome. Yeah.
That's it. I'm ordering all the t-shirts.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm so hyped for all of this. Now,
Yeah,
before we started mentioning all this, I did notice a question further up. It was from Anna, and Anna was asking, any tips on creating villains? Yeah, what are some tips for creating villains?
oh, okay. It depends because I love, like I said already, I love villains. Now, it depends if you want them to be scary, and it depends what sort of way you want them to be scary. So, for me, the reason people don't like clowns or anything like that is because it's hiding their true intention and appearance. It's like a mask. You don't know what you can't judge someone by what it is, and that's what scares people. So, and then the other thing is take away the fact that you can fight this person with a sword, because then it's all about wits. You have to be able to talk to this bad guy without being able to just run up and kill them effectively. So I did. So when creating a villain, when I did the Doctor for a Necromancer's Wish, I actually the second name, I took the name from a very real villain in the real world, a very nasty person. So I used the last name Mangeli, which is a very nasty person in real life, and then I changed the first name. But the reason he was scary in real life, because again, no one could touch him. He had authority, and I don't. Okay, so I don't know if people know who Dr. Mangeli is. He was a Nazi war officer during the World War who used to do experiments in Auschwitz and stuff on the children, and it was all that sort of thing. But no one could touch him because he was protected by lots of high-ranking staff and people and things like that. So, and that is a terrifying thing because there was nothing you could do to like destroy them. Basically, you had to find another way around. I don't know, Adam, how would you describe Dr.
Oh,
You didn't like him.
Yeah, no, he knew everything somehow. He was so connected, and my character's
Connections, that's it. That's the word I
so
meant.
confident, and like you took my confidence away, and I was just like, I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
Yeah. So I think it's a way to make your characters feel uncomfortable without doing anything to them. So it's like I don't know, because some people, the other thing is that I find creates a villain is when you have some people that agree with the villain, when there's like a fine line between is right or this is wrong, but it's quite I don't know how to. I've lost words now. Words
Yeah.
are not working.
I like to use this is where the backstory thing comes in. When I'm doing campaigns and stuff, I like to use family members, family members that have secrets. So like if people tell me that they grew up with mainly with their mum because they didn't see their dad too much because he was a really busy businessman, yeah, okay, he was a mob boss. Yeah, he's going to be the big bad straight away. I already know, and just by tying the tying that into the story, you already have them strong emotional links, and you can make them. First of all, so this is said a lot online, but it's true. A villain that believes he is the good guy is a good villain. A villain that is a good guy is the most memorable of all time. So, like, a mob boss that does something to try and save something that the party don't know about, or something else, like TallSquall was saying, about things are going on in the realm, and the party are just thrown into it, and they only get to see one side of the story, maybe. That's where your big villain twists come in. When, like, you're fighting this guy, and then suddenly the person that's been giving you all these missions from some discrete location turns out he's been making some power play on the government or something. I don't know. You know, it's that big.
I tell you who is a really good example for a villain, and I always use him as inspiration. If you've seen BBC Sherlock, Moriarty in that is terrifying because he is a weedy little guy who snaps like that. So he talks very normally, very elegant.
You say normally.
No, but every now and then you
That's
can
what
hear his
people
voice
do,
snap.
Sherlock.
No, but that's
they
what
die.
But that's what I mean. He has a very calm voice, and then it bursts. And the other thing that creates a scary villain is a clever villain. It's not a brute. It's not anything like. It is a clever villain, and you never ever know.
Especially because it works so well with D&D. Because I don't know if you now, TallSquall, I'm interested in your input on this because you've got a much longer running campaign than I've ever run. But I find that most groups, because of the way, especially 5e is geared towards combat and abilities, a lot of them are very much fighty. They all have things that they can do in a fight, and they're very much like the strong superhero. If we look at comic lore, you have the strong superhero or the clever superhero. I find D&D tends people towards being strong. And then because they are a strong superhero, it almost makes sense for them to be against a clever villain, because it's that trope almost.
Right, absolutely. Because I mean, well, let's face it, most people have sort of optimized their spells and whatever for combat, or it's very obvious that you're going into a social situation. And so, if you're one of the classes that, when you do your spell prep for the day or whatever, you sort of get yourself ready for that, or, or everyone just sort of pushes the bard to the front. I see an Alice running around.
You've got a teleporting Alice.
Woo! Push, the bard or push the rogue to the front to do all the talking. When you're able to make a villain that throws people off balance, is always a fun and exciting thing to do. And usually being clever is one of them. Having the party, I mean, whether a villain or whether it's a group, I mean, having the party fight another adventuring party. Most of our villains, most of your, okay, I'm going to throw a CR whatever villain, monster at these people. They have monster tactics. But, when you've got a villain who is smart and who is clever and, who targets your healer and heals his monster instead of necessarily just throwing damage at the barbarian. Doing things like that is where you can get into interesting combat based, but then also story based. Make it an emotional investment. I mean, one of, I think, probably the scariest villains in this long running campaign I have, who has reoccurred, is Bati. I won't do any spoilers. I won't do spoilers if you've watched. If you haven't watched, this might be it. Those hounds I was talking about, they were actually clockwork hounds built by Bati, who is a traveler who's come, is a artisan who has come from this city, Qualvarine, and he's a clockwork artisan. And he has been this reoccurring villain in our bard's life. And her first time where she died, actual 3 failed death saving throws. She found out as her soul, she was expecting for her soul to be released into the afterlife, discovered that this clockwork artisan deals in souls, and had bound her soul to a clockwork he was making, and is stealing her talent. And so after she died, he sent her back because he wants her to keep playing songs so that he can steal them from her. And her, her charisma hasn't lowered. Her performance checks have a negative modifier to it, based on this villain who is stealing her inspiration and her talent to embed it in a clockwork version of herself. And yeah, so it's this really creepy. They've never met him in contact. He is combat. He just keeps sending these minions against them, and his racing right now to find this other song that she has been. Her task is to uncover these 3 sort of songs of power, and she beat him to the first one, but he has a huge head start on the second one. And again, this isn't spoiler, this is all known in the campaign, but he is this very creepy person who isn't targeting necessarily their hit points or has even met them in combat. He is stealing our bard's vision and talent, and and not just that, to lock her soul away into a clockwork version of herself that he has control.
That's creepy as it is. I mean, I guess I've got a villain that I have done. I did for a one shot that wasn't necessarily evil because they didn't perceive themselves as evil, but it was a child. And I think it was the one shot. I don't know if it's on YouTube actually. It was called Through the Red Door. And they went through this house that was the same corridor every single time, and it was done in a very creepy way. However, the little girl didn't believe anything was wrong. In fact, she thought she was helping the group, so she wanted to have friends. She didn't have friends, so all the adventurers went into this house, and she was going to slowly turn them into characters her age so that she could have friends that stayed with her. But in her mind, nothing attacked them. Nothing. In fact, I don't think I attacked them once whilst they were searching through this house. It was all built up on fear. So this little girl never attacked them. In fact, she tried to befriend them, and she did. She befriended them all in the end, and they never left the house, and they didn't realize it until the last point. But she just wanted friends, and that was all it was. There was not a single attack. There was not. There was no violence or anything. I don't know if you remember that one, Scrat, Through the Red Door. The little girl that was technically the bad guy, but she just wanted friends to play with, and you were never allowed to leave the house.
Oh, yeah.
So she was a villain, I guess, technically, but she didn't actually do anything nasty. In fact, she did everything to help them. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's... That was strange. That was one of them good sessions where I genuinely had no idea who the villain was. And then
I tried to help her in the end. I
absolutely love that, because I'm sitting there like, well, I mean, your motivations are sketchy as hell. Your motivations are sketchy as hell. I don't know what you're doing. Who am I supposed to help here? Yeah.
Yeah, I do like those every now and then, because it makes it very difficult for you to hate the villain as well. And as a character, to get the job done, you almost need to hate the villain, because you want to be able to get rid of the villain. But when the villain is a child that is not, in her mind, doing anything wrong, that was
that gets odd.
So, because in fact, at the end of that one, they took her. What they thought, they took her out of the house because they thought they were saving her from this haunted house or whatever it was. So the point was, it was called Through the Red Door because every single door they went through was red, and as soon as they opened it, the door disappeared, and they were in the same corridor over and over again. When they thought they had saved it, they took the little girl out of the house. They went back to the tavern because they thought, yes, we've saved this little girl. and the tavern door that they were so used to had a red door. And then when they walked through it, they were back in the same corridor in the same house, and that's when it clicked that it was the little girl doing it. But you don't want to. They wanted to save her. They didn't want to hurt her, even though she was the villain.
Yeah. One of the things I think with villains, I think it's harder to create villains these days. Because I'm going to justify this, because like 20 years ago or so, like a party encounters goblins, you killed the goblins. They were just goblins. You killed them.
Mm-hmm.
These days, as a community, we've become so much more progressive. Like, you see a wild, lumbering kobold, an orc, a bugbear, anything, and you're like, well, hang on a minute. Just because he looks a little different, maybe he's not a bad guy, you know? So, like, where you could just, like, back in the day, just like, oh, 10 goblins appear. What do you do? And they're like, well, I'm going to ask them what they're doing. Are they trading? Are they hunting? Hello, goblins. How are you today? And the goblins are like, oh, my God, 10 years ago, my dad got killed by a group of adventurers. It's great that these days we can just, like, sit and have a chat. Like, you have to think a lot more clever with your villains these days, I think. I mean, you can still do the old school style. Yeah, Pale Lord remembers my liberal goblins wanting a bakery.
They just wanted a bakery, but everyone wanted
yeah. They didn't realise that kidnap was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, like you say, because I mean, everyone complains about the murder hobos, but sometimes you're just like, oh dear God, be a murder hobo, come on. Yeah, I just these are the ones just meant to kill. No, really, just kill them. They're just here to die.
Like, and some people get offended as well when like the like one of these villains that's clearly a villain just starts attacking things. They're like, well, why is it doing that? Like, well, because it's a villain. Like, it's a bad thing. Just kill it, please. Like, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, and I think, again, just in the prevalence of so much great fantasy media now, and sci-fi, I mean, just general, media, coming up with, I mean, tropes are good, like I was saying before, but also trying to come up with a unique plot turn that, we have very savvy players. They've read all the same books. They've probably watched all the same shows. So to come up with something that feels very unique and feels like something that they've not seen before, done before, or, this is part of, because of my prep and machine that I've built, I want to make a story that would be challenging to me, which gets me in so much trouble because my players don't necessarily want a story that's as challenging as that to me, or trying to do it on stream or fit it into sessions, or to not have this huge giant side thing that happens, gets difficult. But on the same note, oh, that's the same thing that happened in episode 15 of whatever, or oh, that's the, I mean, video games is another one. I mean, oh, that's the exact same thing as WoW boss fight 26, or oh, that's, I remember that from Final Fantasy 6. I'm like, I never played Final Fantasy 6, but you just happened to do the same.
I get that
like
too.
You were saying, you were thinking totally Mines of Moria, and someone thought it was, I forget what you said, was
Dragon Age. Yeah.
Everything is inspired by something, so I don't think there's probably any scenario. The closest I've come to it is something that's happened in the Necromancer's Wish, which I've been using, which happened to one of the characters. So Scrap will probably know, with Ali's character. But that's got to have come from somewhere. I can't have just come up. I mean, it's probably in loads of things. So
Wait, yeah, the thing that you do all the time, Alice, and it seems like you forget when you're not doing it, but the thing that you do all the time is you watch something and you go, oh my god, that's just like my idea. I'm gonna have to change it now. And I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. You can leave it. It's okay. No one will know. This was an original thought. If anyone does draw a comparison, it'll be fine, you know?
because I had it's probably not spoilers because obviously it's been going on for ages, but Ali's character
This is a special.
Charisse, and I hear double TallSquall.
Yeah. It's like his lips are, he's talking, but his lips are staying still.
But Ali's character, who is called Charisse, she suffered from memory loss and couldn't remember a lot. And I built it up and up and up. And she suddenly realized she was not Charisse at all. Charisse was actually her twin sister, and her name was Charlotte. And she had killed her twin sister. And because of she couldn't deal with it, she had blocked things out and adapted her sister's personality to cope with it. So that's something that took me ages to try and work out and bring in. And like I said, that's got to have come from somewhere, because it's not coming from real life experience. So it's got to have come from somewhere. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there was something else that I was going to talk about a second ago, and it's just left my mind. It was something to do with like organizing time or something like that, and it's gone. It's totally gone.
I'll tell you the other thing I stem from, and that is ancient religions and stuff. This is how archaeology helped me with a lot of my twists. So in A Necromancer's Wish, as it has been revealed now, the thing or whatever, a lot of it is taken from Scandinavian Norwegian religion. So I think taking from other things and making it your own and twist it, that's what other people do anyway. So, and I find old religions and history really, really helps, because it is so interesting. In fact, I very excitedly emailed Scrap the other day with an
Alice had a wave of inspiration, and instead of turning to her notebook, she turned to me, and like, I think I was in the middle of another stream. I was doing a one shot, and I just see this like bing, 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 bing. Like, I've got an idea.
But it's an idea for a campaign, and it is. I don't know if I should say about it or not, but I don't know. It's inspired by ancient history and mythology and stuff like that. But I want to bring it into the 31st century so that it's in a sci-fi level, which I think is something that always should be.
I mean, I unashamedly do it. I unashamedly, when I'm low on ideas, I look across at my thing, and you know what? I sit there and I think, you know what? This week I'm gonna rip off that movie. I'm just gonna change a few things so I can get away with it. And I'm 100%. And you know what? People really enjoyed it. Like last week we did a one shot called A New Theme Park, and the theme was Where Nature Finds a Way.
Jurassic Park is my favorite thing in the world. I love it.
But the guys really enjoyed it. They were going through and like they were doing the scenes. They were doing scenes from the movie. It was fun, you know, like.
Well, and dude, again, that's such a valid thing to do. Who doesn't want to actually feel like they were in that favorite movie of theirs?
Exactly.
Dude, Ghostbusters. I mean, go have, you can, that's a great one for showing off the incredible breadth and depth of the undead monsters in the D&D world. I mean, you can run a Ghostbusters campaign all the way up to easily 10th level, if not higher. I mean, heck, you could go all the way up with liches and everything, where you are the Ghostbusters in either a fantasy or modern world. It is not tough to do, and people would love it, to do Ghostbusters as a D&D campaign.
Yeah, it's 100% true. Like I think of it all the time. Like literally half of my inspiration comes from, that was a really cool scene, or that chapter of that book was so much fun. I'd love to play that. I'm gonna give it to my players. Like, why not use the popular ones as well as the less known? Like, yeah. I remember what I was gonna say as well about like timing and stuff. Like, sometimes I try and avoid this. It's something I struggle with as a DM, and I wonder about how you guys do it. But sometimes I will write my plan. I'm very planned in my one shots. I've got my bullet points, and sometimes, you know what? Sometimes it all goes to plan. Sometimes it goes a little slow, and you can speed things up easier. But the one that I struggle with most is when things start going too fast. Like, they naturally progress towards my hour and a half plot point in half an hour.
I have had that before. In fact, the horror one shot on the pier.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
the horror one shot.
This is not relatable content.
The horror one shot on the pier, you guys got through it in an hour. The last 2 hours were completely off the cuff. Everything was but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I try to do is I try like, sometimes as the DM, people look to you to drive the story and everything. And I'm much more inclined to let the players drive the story. So one of the things that I like to use is silence. If people go silent, I'm very happy to let them be silent for a moment, especially if they keep like asking me like mechanical style questions. You guys all know I prefer the role play style. And so when people keep asking me mechanical questions, I'm like, oh, so can I see this? Can I do this? How if I have this, can I do this? And what about this? And I'll just sit there and answer all their questions, like yes, yes, no, yes, yep, that's fine, yes, and yep. And then they go quiet and think. And then, because they've been asking questions for quite a while, and now they've gone silent, I'll just use an awkward silence descends upon the party. And suddenly they're all like, oh yeah, we have to interact and we have to talk. And like,
oh god, we gotta fill the awkward silence.
Yeah, I love awkward silence. Like, in real life and in game, there's nothing better than being stuck in an elevator with someone you don't know. I love it. I relish them moments. And I'm very happy to use them in the game. And like, because people do, like, when you're silent, people start to try and fill the silence, you know, and it's a difficult thing to plan for. You can't plan for an awkward silence, but you can use it. I try and do that. How about you, Alice? When we were doing that pier one shot, how did you, like, what? It seemed to flow very well for me. I don't know where you when you did the pier thing, it seemed very smooth, the transition, and I didn't notice when you had run out of plan. So how did you cope with it?
I tell you where I ran out of plans. Do you remember when you used a nat? It wasn't you. I think it was Rena. Used a nat 20. Or it was Chorus. Used a nat 20 to catch Charlie's brother scurrying about the pier.
Right.
There, all made up. You guys got there way too quickly. And I think what I did, again, this is from, I had to hone in on ideas, quite like TallSquall with ideas. I have to write them down, otherwise I will not remember them at all. I don't have to then physically have the book in front of me, but because I've written it down, I remember it. But I think I branched on to the fact of what are people scared of, because it was the horror. I was like, what freaks people out? So with that one, the bad guy in that one, if you remember, he was dancing a lot, and the way he acted and the sudden movements and things like that. So I described the scenario around them and the creature that was at the other end of the pier, and I waited to see all of your reactions to develop on it. That was all. And then go with it.
Yeah, and that's 100% exactly what I do as well. Like, I think Durakan makes a good point in the chat. Once you have a world, the story comes from a character interacting with that world, and you don't need a deep, well thought out campaign. And that resounds with me. I know you two have already got the deep, well thought out everythings, but with me, I can take the interactions and I can build on it from there. In fact, one of the campaigns I'm writing, I have planned, what I like to do is I plan the factions. I plan who the power players are and what they're doing. And then that's it. During that one shot, I'm 100% using my mind in 3 different places to see, right, okay, so the party have done this, and the party have done this, and the party have done this. How does that affect this faction? How does that affect this faction? And how does that affect this faction? And what are they going to do about it? And my campaign is just constantly moving. I don't bother trying to write it down because.
Yeah.
But what about you guys? How do you?
I mean, for filling the silence type idea. I mean, I have 7 players, so it is rarely. It's not very hard. I mean, that's why we end up going long and stuff. I mean, usually it's just a quick look around them and to who hasn't spoken, who hasn't done something, and most all of them, because let's face it, with 7 players, it does take a little while for the spotlight to come around to what your character might be doing. Usually it sort of will fill itself in that way. I can also say some of those situations lead to some great interactive moments. I mean, there was a whole scene, and I can't remember. I don't know if Alicia's still out there. I can't remember what something got under Alicia's skin, so she actually left sort of the party and went drinking and went drinking with Nob, a Noblin guy, and we ended up having a whole scene and probably one of our first real looks into Luna as a character. She had been very quiet and reserved around the party, and one night getting drunk at the noodle shop by herself, which Nob's lovely wife runs a B&B upstairs, and our monk, our Spartan monk, ended up waking up in the most floral B&B room ever, because why not? And I think again with that, you just, like you were saying, take inspiration, see how your party is interacting with things. What was something they paid a little bit of attention to? And just play off it, and God, throw those tropes out there. I mean, I had Nob's wife was basically Edith Bunker from Archie Bunker's place, and I was just like, and of course she's running a bed and breakfast, and it is the most floral, perfumed,
chintz everywhere,
chintz everywhere, potpourri filled space you've ever been to. It is worse than your grandmother's space because in this dirty, dingy noodle shop, that's her spot, that's her place, and she's made it the most beautiful room in the establishment, in the very legal establishment, and play along with that. Let your party take the reins, have some fun. I mean, there was this great scene where our druid got his first swim form, and our tabaxi had been shrunken, and we had a tabaxi riding an otter running around the crossroads city, and went by running the shop. I mean, and this is where if you come up with some fun NPCs, especially for your towns. I mean, we have Marge and Harold, a human and an orc. It was the description basically of them. This is where half orcs come from. And they're old married couple that run the magic shop, and so it's just lots of if you can plant little things. And this is for me, who is not a great quick improver. I'm the guy who always thinks of the cool thing to say about an hour after I should have said it. Whereas if you build this big giant world, you can have pieces to pull from when you're not lightning quick on the draw for things. And so that's why, I mean, to me, a big campaign is a crutch. I know for you, Scraticus, it is a nightmare to try to think of how you'll possibly do it.
It's a terrifying thing. It's terrifying. I've planned 16 episodes for this next campaign that starts on Tuesday, and
this is the most he's ever planned. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Well, I wrote a whole 2 A4 sides. I've planned.
Well, I mean, dude. I mean, my campaign, until we get to the sessions, I usually only plan 3 and 4 sessions ahead, except for big Nexus type things. But I do have an outline, which on day 1 was a outline for 60 sessions. We're at 60 sessions and are at what my original outline had thought was going to be like session 25. Not
That-
even, probably more like
Well,
20.
That actually ties into a question from chat as well. Genly I asked earlier, do we expect our games to go on longer than they should? And I guess the answer I'm hearing from TallSquall now is yes.
It depends on the character. On the characters playing, I find,
Yeah.
because some people are incredibly inquisitive, and then others are like, to the mission, and they just go.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, you have that as well. It does 100%. I give half an hour per event. That's how I work it out. I think, right, if I put an event in, it's probably going to take half an hour, and it could be a fight, it could be a puzzle, it could be they meet a new person that develops part of the plot. And you know what? Depending on the players, some of them will get through fighting really, really quickly and take a long time going through the plot hook bit. Others will be the complete other way around, and it sort of balances itself out. Like, I think the only time you get a problem, and I do this often, is when you put too many of the same kind of encounter in, because then you get rid of your law of averages and everything takes longer than you think, or everything takes shorter than you think, and then you come up with that problem.
And then when you run out of things, that's when the improv has to come in. I'm getting better at improv. It's not my strongest feat. The only thing I will say I'm okay with on improv is the characters and the conversations. So there's one of my favorite interactions between Alar's character and one of the guards when he tried to steal the boat. And I think that's because I know you very, very well. So I was able to get one of the best interactions, and it was so funny that I think the rest of the group who were playing, they sort of lost it. But I don't know if that's because I know you very well, or
oh, it is, baby. Definitely is. You
better.
definitely. I'm sorry to all the DMs who have DM'd me in chat. I love you all, but none of you can get stuff out of me the way Alice can, because she just knows me. She just, before
It
I
has
even
been
do
8.5
anything.
years though.
Yeah,
baby.
she knows exactly, like, even when I'm playing a character, she knows how I think when I'm trying to get into a character's mind. That's how deeply she knows me right now. So, like, she already can predict that I'm thinking about this character like this, and because I'm thinking about this character like this, that means I'm thinking they'll do this, so what I'm probably going to do is this. And she can just play chess with me all day. All day.
Yeah.
Like,
and you won't even know.
exactly. I like so Durican mentions about people having hot dice or on the duff dice. The other thing that we haven't really mentioned is having chat interactions as well.
Oh my, that was definitely. I love chat interactions, and I do love improv, and I want to get better at it. And I think chat interactions really help with that as well, because you've got to stay on your toes, especially as a DM. I think I had one session, we were on a boat, and everyone was like, do this, and I was like, you fall overboard. Now there's a big creature coming to get you. You've lost your arm, and I had to.
And suddenly, especially because there's a campaign as well, suddenly not only is the session derailed, the whole campaign's going to take longer because.
Yeah.
Well, hell, we were just going to take a little paddle across the stream, and now we're fighting Cthulhu. You know, like, it's.
The other thing I love that I know some people hate, as a character, I love either having a really bad dump stat, or I love receiving nat ones, because that always makes for something really funny to happen, or something you are going to have to be quick on your toes and think of, how am I going to get out of this, because I have failed at that. And I think that, so one of my favorite things in D&D is character development. In fact, that could be my favorite thing. So I think nat ones help with character development. And I know lots of people like, oh no, I've got a nat one. I'm like, yes, I've got a nat one. Like, I can't wait to see where this goes.
My guilty pleasure is rolling really bad stats.
Yeah.
So Kiana's in chat. She'll know. The character that I'm playing for the 4 one-shots this month in One Shot Wonders has an intelligence of 4. I can't remember what his other dump is, but I think it's dexterity. So he's really slow and really slow-minded. But rather than making it a joke, which is very easy to do, I've basically tried to play this character like he genuinely has learning difficulties. And he's such a genuine character. I'm so in love with him. He's such a genuine character that's just trying to make his way, and he knows this, and he's trying to save this because of this. He's got his motivations, and the character just gets so deep. Like once you start thinking like that, because it's easy to just be like, oh, I've got low intelligence. Like, oh, I don't know, is this paper? Whereas instead, actually going. And I did a little bit of research actually on things like dyslexia and dyspraxia. I'm dyspraxic myself, and other things.
And dyspraxic, we're a great team.
And other things like that. I've been doing some research and like looking at the way that they describe how the disability affects them, and I've been trying to use that. Like me and Kiana are doing a load of text-based RP in the background about this player's childhood because we both love him, and I'm trying to use it whilst we play, and it's so rewarding, so rewarding.
This is the other thing. I like characters that are real. So ones that, like, I'd love, like, if I was I haven't been in a campaign for months now, apart from the one on Encounter Roleplay, but I like characters where they just work in, I don't know, a bakery, and they go about their daily business, and there's nothing super special or supernatural about them. And then they're thrown into a situation where, they could be rubbish at so many things. Like, you get the warriors that have been trained to fight all the years, and then you've just got this poor little like kitchen boy that's just like, oh God. And I think that, again, it's going back to the whole character development side of things again. But
I would love to play our two characters again.
I was about to say, George, for me, I loved that like relationship in general. And George was rubbish at so many things, but I loved his character. To me, it was one of my absolute favorites. And if I can revisit that, I will, because I love it so much. But he wasn't good at anything, like, at all. He was pretty rubbish.
Well, Vart sort of grew on me. And as I was creating him, he's got a great sort of history, but he's the same idea. Sort of same idea. He's this sort of bard, cleric, whatever mix that he's learned all of it just by working in this taverns, and living in this tavern since he was a kid. And, he's this, he's this half elf, half orc that has this, very mixed background. And, and again, he's a barman. That's his thing. And, even in his bardic stuff that he knows, he's, it's calm emotions is what he knows, because he knows how to get people to not, tear up his bar. It's that type of stuff. He's not an optimized character. I love when people, the sort of the big streams talk about non-optimized characters. And that's when you can just make it a story. For those of you who do watch Turncloaks, it's a real play session, but we sometimes go 3-4 episodes without dropping a die, because it's much more about us telling a story. Now, that takes a very special group, and we were lucky that we gelled so much together to be able to really free-form storytelling with some D&D on the side. It is not, which I think is great for podcasting as well, because, it's tough to mentally keep up with die rolls in audio, type idea. It's even tough sometimes on Critical Role. When they were at high level and they the Kraken battle, that's for anyone who's a fan and watch that, it was a 3.5 hour combat, which is just, against basically one big bag of hit points. It's one thing when you've got an evolving situation to keep, to keep people interested. But yeah, it's 5e is very different from previous versions, being an old 2e player myself, like when it first came out. I remember waiting for second edition to come out. Yeah, that old. I know, right? Yes. I was going to say the old wrinkly heart. Give me the old wrinkly heart.
Well, we had a follower at the same time, but I'll give you an old wrinkly heart. There it is.
Yeah, that wrinkly heart. So and especially in 4th edition as well. I didn't even play 4th edition, but from the tales I hear of 4th edition, it was very mechanically driven video type game type thing. And I think that's why 5e is having such a resurgence, is because everyone knows how to learn the mechanics in a video game. What you don't get to do in a video game, other than sometimes you get to click on, A, B, or C interaction, is actually do a conversation with an NPC.
Mm-hmm.
And do that and have the potential to, we call it derailing the story, but it might be making the story. I mean, I will relate, because I just did this whole episode, and at some point I am probably going to write it all down and let people try to run it themselves, of basically an Ocean's 11 level of a heist that it's not that the party was doing it, another group was doing it. And the party suddenly gets inserted into this and has their own things that they need to try to do, why this very complex, machine is happening in the background. And I had come up with about 7 different ways that it could play out, because I'm me, and developed the 7 different ways that it could play out because I'm me.
That's what I do.
And they came up with, the 8th one. My party, of course, came up with the 8th one, which was at least adjacent to one of the other ones. I can say, adjacent to the other ones. But, now it's the what happens? I mean, what's next? I mean, how is this going to play out? Because, there was what I consider to be sort of like, was an optimized solution. There was the worst of the absolute worst, and they kind of went worst adjacent. So, it's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna be great. But no, it's failure. Though this is in D&D, since there is no save point and I need to go do that again. It's like, how are you going to handle that? That half the party was captured, that a party member died, a beloved party member died. You failed to save the NPC. The demon got summoned. Whatever.
Okay, so in the campaign we're running at the moment, the characters in it adopted an NPC, basically, and I kind of, in some ways I expected it, but it was not intentional at all. And so one of the main characters is called Izzy, and Adam's character Ayla was like, yep, that's going to be my apprentice now. And I was like, right, I better start.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I was a character that grew up as a wood elf in the city, completely, like, learning to thieve, and got adopted by the Thieves Guild. And I find this wood elf child that's thieving from things, and he's about to get, like, captured and stuff. And I'm like, yep, he's mine. Just putting him in my pocket. He's my kid.
Now he's a brand new. And I've now created him like a whole backstory and everything, which they don't know about yet. But he's got a whole backstory and everything. So it is surprising what your characters sort of latch onto as well, which I really like, because actually that's a good idea. Yeah, why didn't I think of that? Or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, again, back to the comparison of video games and why 5e I think is so. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons in general. I can give you my whole I can do my whole TED talk on storytelling being needed in society today, but I'll spare you that. We'll do that at some other time. But one of the things that I definitely like is there is sometimes you find some NPC in a game and you want to know more about them, but you've clicked on every all the different choices and you run into the end. Whereas here, I mean, I had this, kind of just threw him out there, a little NPC called 1,000 Teeth, He was a tabaxi who had, through wild magic, all of his fur had been turned into teeth. So he was covered in like shark's teeth, and no one could touch him. He was this little guy. Everyone thought he was a monster. So and no one could. I know exactly.
It
And he was
seems
just
so sad when you were telling me about this before.
well, and that was the thing is, and then the party just was like, and he ends up getting a crush on our rogue and that sort of stuff. And at the end, she was like, I don't care if she used she was like, I'm a rogue. She goes, I'm going to do a dexterity check to not cut myself, but I'm going to give this kid a hug. And it was like the most awesome little moments. Of this little NPC who was just a guidepost. Truly, was originally a guidepost who was like, hey, he's working. The party likes him. And now he's he's a memory of he's a piece of the campaign lore. We had art was done because for little old Thousand Teeth. Actually, I need to pull that up. I haven't shown it in a while.
I loved that though, because when they just get so attached, and then you have the just awesome little moments. They're my absolute favorite. I really want to play a tabaxi character. I've never played a tabaxi, and in fact, what I discovered until yesterday, I had never ever played a tiefling ever. So yesterday, I made a character which was a tiefling, which I'm hoping to bring back because. I was like, oh, it's a one shot. I'll just make a quick character, and now I'm so in love with her and need to get like her in-depth backstory.
I love playing tabaxi. I love it. I remember playing a tabaxi princess, and I felt like a tabaxi princess.
Wait, tabaxi or tiefling?
Tabaxi for me. Tabaxi
for you, tiefling for you. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was terrified of playing tabaxi in our campaign because Templar Warden, who plays Axel, has done such a brilliant job role-playing our tabaxi wizard as being always distracted, talks too fast, says too many things, and he just does this amazing thing with all that sort of stuff. And I was like, I will never be able to hold a candle to him. And so it was very interesting. And once I've bitten off, I've now done 2, and I just love them. I love doing those mannerisms and those voices of tabaxi. So I can't wait till we bump into some more tabaxi in our campaign and get to have that very cat-like. And that's the thing is that we've always played them as sort of these very hyper. I can't wait to do the fat cat, lazy,
the lounging,
the lounging tabaxi
finds a nice little patch of sun and just
the lounging tabaxi. I'm looking forward to different folks from just because you're a certain race doesn't mean you're all the same, except for noblins. Noblins are pretty much all the same.
I think the thing is, I really want to play a tabaxi, and I think I can get the mannerisms down. The bit I can't do, which Scrat can do really well, is like the purring sound and the voice. I can't do it, but you can. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So I'm having a discussion with Prax right now a little bit. So Prax, were they saying that they couldn't achieve what they wanted because rolling low, or because the rolls were always too high? Was it from a DM point of view or a character point of view? Prax had interesting. I guess there was a thread this morning about D&D. They were lamenting how they felt that they could never achieve their desired goals because of the die rolls in 5e. And I don't know if are they lamenting that they're too low or too high, or I saw someone say the idea that once you get to high level characters, it's almost impossible to throw anything at them that's challenging anymore, which I do agree with somewhat. But I will also go with the old Matt Mercer thing of that you don't try to hurt their hit points. If you've been playing for that long, you hit them when the feels as hard as you can.
If you want a brilliant fandom to go and look at for this sort of thing, go and read Superman comics. Find the best Superman comics and find them, because what the hell can hurt Superman? He can do everything. He can run fast. He's immune to pain. He's fine. And then some of the plot lines that they go through.
Well, it's the same with Wolverine as well. Like, he can take loads and loads of damage, but you can't kill him effectively. You can, but they do so much to him mentally.
I just mean for the feeling of being invulnerable and unable to touch them. Superman is a perfect fandom to go and draw comparisons to. Like, and get inspiration from.
Yeah, dude, my first cosplay, man.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Oh,
can
yeah.
believe that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought
no,
four. I thought 4 was one of your first.
that was my first big major one, but yeah, that's me as Superman over there.
Oh, awesome.
Oh wow.
Yeah, one of my friends did that poster for me of me in my costume. No, that was I did my Superman costume for a lot of my charity work when I was visiting hospitals to go visit the kids who were sick. I went as Superman,
Oh,
old classic red brief Superman.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, with for high level characters, and I think across the board, as we talk about villains, as we talk about characters, developing your campaign, to don't make it about hit points. Make it about the emotions that you can invoke. Plug.
There it is.
Let's invoke emotions.
Let's evoke emotions.
Yeah. Because that's where your campaign's gonna come to life. And I guess that would, I mean, what more can I say than that is, the best DM advice to give is listen to your players, find out what they care about most, and well, and not just rip it away from them, but you got to give them some of those good moments as well. You've got to let them, one of my other videos, was make the payoff count. There's a couple times when that's what you're going to want to do. You've got to, if you're going to put them through hell, which we do, you got to give them that moment to really thrill them. And there's nothing more rewarding. And I would also say, as a player, if you've been thrilled by your DM, let them know. Even if
yes,
let them see your emotion. There is nothing that I enjoy better, and I'll link in some examples. I know we're trying to wrap up of some the highlights that from our campaign, where all the hours, days, years of prep that are going to go into this, seeing those smiles, seeing those reactions of your players being truly thrilled in what you've created for them.
Mm. And I
love the positive with the negative.
Big giant hug.
Makes both good. You need both.
I'm one of them players as well. One of them DMs and players. Well, no, players not so much, but one of them DMs. No matter who I'm DMing for and what we've done and how happy everyone looks and how much they say they enjoyed it and how much they want to come back for another one.
Yeah.
I always worry that it's not been good enough. And like just getting that little bit. There's a couple of people, you know who you are, who send me messages after every single one shot, just saying the bits they liked about it and stuff. And I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed to say that I rely on that external validation. I love it.
It makes you, honestly, just send a message to your DM. It makes it so worth it. I mean, I've had some messages of people saying, I can't wait to be in a one shot that you're DMing, or at least playing alongside you. And honestly, it is the best feeling. So please don't hesitate.
Yeah. And TallSquall, there's been a lot of shouting out for you to get in more games. Lots of people want to play with you, buddy. And just, we need to. I
was going to say, unfortunately, with my, here's the thing, and like I say, I need to take a book from a page from Scraticus Academy, bite the bullet, and maybe start doing a weeknight one shot. And it might maybe only like a 2-hour thing or whatever. But yeah, no, I might have to just bite the bullet and do it. Right now, I am deep in this urban planning because it terrifies me. But maybe once I get a little bit more comfortable about that, and the party gets settled into this new zone, we'll have to see.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so guys, I think we're getting close to the next show now. So let's do a little wrap up. So first of all, TallSquall, thank you so much for coming along and doing your DM's desk here today. With us, we and being here for all the reveals, and thank you so much. Advertise yourself, buddy.
I am TallSquall.
Tell us everything.
Yeah, I'm TallSquall. The best way to find me is all over the interwebs as TallSquall. You can find me out there. If you go to my Twitter account, you'll find links to all the other things that I am in. That is the best thing. Go to my YouTube channel, and you can find highlights from our campaign. Also, our entire campaign is there. It is a long catch up. I know we are going to try to do a catch up video. So that people who want to jump in as we head into this whole new sort of zone that they can. And if you found me through Scraticus Academy, be sure to let me know if you come and find me elsewhere, because these are like the most lovely people on the planet, and I love hanging out with them, and you should.
We just hide again from the compliments. Alice, beautiful wife.
Yeah, I am Alice. I am also a well-to-do hobbit on here, and a White Rabbit Pick on Twitter. Yeah, I've really loved just chatting. I really, really love just chatting about D&D. It's one of my favorite things to do. Where is the links? I think that's it. I'm a photographer during the day when I'm not doing D&D stuff. When I'm doing D&D, I'm running campaigns here. I am doing one-shots on the Scratch channel as well, and then I am on Encounter Roleplay for the Warhammer campaign every Wednesday. And I'm currently working on a podcast for Scratch channel, which I'm really looking forward to, using the Cypher system in a very high fantasy magic world. So, yeah. And awesome. I've really liked all the reveals today. So
yeah. We've been excited about this for a while. So, guys, I am Scraticus. Thank you so much, TallSquall and us, for coming along and having this lovely little DM's desk. It's been a great little session. I've really enjoyed it. These are my links if you guys in chat want to come and be a part of it, if you're not already. Discord is where we share artwork and discuss D&D, including player development, character development, rules, all that other good stuff. And the subscribers get a little sneak peek. They've got their own little channel where they get told things earlier, like they've known about the campaign for a long time, as do Patreons. Yes, we also have a Patreon. There it is. That's not with an exclamation mark, though, that is. No, that's not it either. Take 3. Pro streamer.
So, can we get a F in chat for our host, Scraticus? And if you want to see this become a regular thing on mornings before Academy.
Yeah, we could do that.
I normally awesome. Sunday mornings, I usually do DM's desk, and I'm happy to do it over here once a month.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I've loved this chat. So, in fact, does it count if I type F? I'm putting F in.
Okay,
well, chat is lighting up with Fs.
Right,
damn.
Maybe we can have other guests that we can sort of make it a little guest thing, and it's a great way to kind of roll into a whole day of amazing D&D on the Academy with a little bit of coffee and DM talk.
Oh, coffee all the way.
Classic coffee.
Out of coffee, by the way. I don't need coffee.
Or tea, whichever.
We've got the special coffee. Water. We've always got the special coffee. Right. So, guys, I'm throwing the merch out there as well. If you want that new crest over there, get on there and grab yourself a t-shirt or something. It'd be awesome. And we're going to wrap up, guys. So we'll see you in literally about 5-10 minutes for the next show, as hosted by our very own little red dot. So we'll see you later. Thank you so much, TallSquall. Thank you so much, Alice. Thank you, everyone in chat. Bye.